Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top player. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using code NOW. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
Hello, welcome to the Seahawks Syndicate. I've got my friends here. I'm kidding. Hello and welcome to the Seahawks Syndicate. My name is Brandon Cain, of course, leading the way through today. But we've got our folks back in the house for the second edition of the Seahawks Syndicate coming at you once a month, final Wednesday of every month. We got Dan in here from Seahawks Forever, Bryce Coutts from Hawks Eye, of course, Mookie Alexander here, holding it down from the publication side, giving us a nice era of legitimacy, gentlemen, not just some dudes with microphones. We actually are publication, new age publication at that. But it's good to see you guys. How's everybody doing today?
Good. You've been working on that. How much time did you spend on that impersonation?
Very long time.
Yeah, I like it.
It's about the eyebrows. Why?
I'm terrible at accents.
Why is my team not 3-0? I ask you this.
I got to be honest though, Brandon, when you started that voice, it made me legitimately think of the movie Zootopia and the little mouse that's the mob king in that one.
Yeah.
And that literally is that's what I was popping my head into right as you were doing that. Was fantastic.
I thought I missed a text and we were all supposed to talk like that for 2 hours.
I was gonna lean into it. Danny V, give me something.
Gonna doing the Seahawks Soprano Syndicate is what we
exactly.
End up doing for a couple hours.
Exactly. We got to take someone out. You guys know about a guy, know about a guy. Well, gentlemen, we aren't 3-0, but we're not too shabby either at 2-1. Let's kick this off with Bryce. Let's have you start this off here, upper right here corner. I always like high level views. Gives you a good feeling for where you guys are at from a guttural stance, good, bad, or feeling high. Where are you at with this team here through 3 games and your standing of things and your outlook of things?
For me, I think it's interesting. I'm kind of on a high right now a little bit, considering we finally saw a complete Seahawks performance for the first time in probably over a decade. Like the first game that came to mind for me after watching that Saints game and rewatching it was the 58-0 drubbing of Arizona in 2012. Like that's the first game that popped into my mind of we're talking all 3 phases. We're talking
John Skelton, baby.
Exactly. We're talking complete domination that entire game. And then after watching a little bit more of the All-22, there's still things for me where I look at this team and I go, okay, that was like that game, and I know it's going to sound weird, but that was like the tip of the iceberg of how good this team I think can really be. We still have some issues with this running game, trying to get it to be more consistent. Not that we're not running the ball enough, but we're not consistently getting the yards out of it I think that we necessarily should. And, I still think there's, some questions about getting that pass rush and getting home at the end of the day. Okay, we got to Rattler a little bit, but we haven't consistently, like we've got pressure, but we're not finishing. And when you listen to Mike McDonald talk, it's kind of the same thing, constantly that he's preaching as well. I'd say I'm happily optimistic right now, Brandon, is the way I'd put it. I've got that Buccaneers game circled of there's our next real true test. I think this Arizona game, it's divisional, so it'll be its own thing on a short week, but we want to see where we really stack up. How do we play against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here coming in a couple weeks?
Yeah, good point on that. Mookie, how about yourself on this one? Are you feeling better right now than where we were at in training camp for the upside of this team, or about the same?
The reason why I'm feeling good is because of the way they beat the Saints. And no, I mean, the Saints I don't think the Seahawks are going to play a worse team than New Orleans, other than maybe Tennessee the rest of the season. But the good part of it is they played a really bad team and they hammered them. This is not the Giants trip up from last year or the countless other trip ups we saw toward the end of the Pete Carroll era that frustrated us all. It's like, yeah, they would have some struggles here and there in the Legion of Boom era, like being 21-0 down to a winless Tampa Bay team and then coming back to win, or being down 20-3 to an eventual 2-14 Texans team coming back to win that one in overtime. But they also were beating a bad Atlanta team like 33-10 or Jacksonville 45-17. It's like, it's the NFL, so occasionally you'll get some slip-ups. Just ask Green Bay, the Super Bowl champions-elect against Cleveland. So you can have those slip-ups, but what you can't have is consistently struggling against inferior opposition. And the game was truly won in the first quarter. So Pete Carroll must have been confused when he saw that. But yeah, the game was won in the first quarter, 21-0 in 11 minutes, 38-6 at the half. That was a old school beatdown, and it was in all three phases. The offense, without lighting it up in terms of like 400, 500 yards, was ruthlessly efficient. They scored on their first 7 drives. Now, did the short fields help? Absolutely. But hey, you got the short fields, go score. The special teams, absolutely amazing. And that was the big question mark for us regarding Jay Harbaugh's special teams unit is, are these mistakes going to get cleaned up? Are they going to have better return game? Are they going to be better covering kicks? And so far, they have been better at covering kicks. Heck, they have recovered a kick in the end zone for a touchdown already. And now you got a punt return touchdown too. So, and then the defense, of course, has been able to shut down. Let's face it, I don't think Pittsburgh's a very good offense. And then I think New Orleans' offense is just severely limited. Chris Olave having 10 catches for 57 yards just feels gross. Like if you have 10 catches as a receiver, your number's got to be, your receiving yards number's got to be at least 90. I'll go with that, not 57. But the defense, I think, given who's missing, like no Eamon Wari, no Julian Love for the last game, no Devin Witherspoon for 2 games, Nwosu didn't play the first game. They've had some injuries here and there, and Tyrese Knight, I think, is still not 100%. The defense has been really good. I'm not saying best in the league. I think it could be pretty close to it. There are some things that need to be cleaned up. The running game, as Bryce mentioned, I think it really has to be improved. And now we'll get to the Robbie Oots injury a little bit later on, but that is certainly going to affect things at least for the next month. I don't like how the offensive line is handling or not handling stunts because teams are blitzing quite a bit against Seattle. But Sam Darnold's doing such a tremendous job of getting the ball out in time that his sack rate's below 4%. So I think you will take that every single time. And he's not getting the ball out quick and turning it over. It's getting the ball out quick and usually producing a positive result. I guess the one concern I have on defense would be finishing plays, and that means the sacks. So like they're getting turnovers. That's really good. But finishing plays means like Spencer Rattler and Aaron Rodgers and Brock Purdy. Collectively, that's not a tremendously gifted gifted set of quarterbacks in terms of athleticism and ability to escape the pocket. Kyler Murray, for all of his flaws, can absolutely be a nightmare for a lot of defenses because of his ability to escape the pocket. Or somebody like Jaden Daniels being a natural running threat when you see him against Washington, see him in the Washington game a few weeks from now. So when they're blowing contain, like they're getting pressure, but they're allowing these little escape hatches, that's going to cost them against more mobile quarterbacks. So I'd like to see that get cleaned up. So like turn these pressures into sacks more often. And I think the onus is really more on the edge rushers than the interior, because the interior with Williams, Reed, and Murphy, they've been outstanding. They've been elite. Mafe and Hall have been really, really good. And in Hall's case, he's been getting straight tackled and drawing penalties. But I would really like to see them get some sacks.
How much might you draw some of the lack of sack production? Dan, I want to get your thoughts on this too. Just to follow up to you with this Mookie, how much might you ascribe some of the lack of sack production, the fact that you're 31st, I believe, in the NFL in blitz rate right now? So you're constantly sending the 4 to the 5 and 6 if there's a chipper in there. How much can be put to that, and how much can be to they need to just finish the deal more?
Yeah, they're near the bottom in blitz rate, and they're near the top in pressure rate. You know, and I just think it's eventually it's going to happen. You know, the Cardinals too are top third of the league in pressure rate, and they've only got 5 sacks. They have less than we do. They're not getting home either. I think part of it is there's a massive trend around the league right now. Everyone's going quick game. It's such a huge emphasis. It's really hard play. You just don't get guys standing back in the pocket for 3, 4, 5 seconds anymore. So you have to win quickly. We've talked a little bit about this too. It's not really the type of edge rushers the Seahawks have. They're not those really explosive, quick twitch, dynamic guys that can just flat out beat you off the edge. You know, they do it kind of in symphony and in concert with each other. I think that's going to happen. I think overall, though, just to answer your question, like I don't know how. Like I'm just incredibly positive about everything. Even week 1, as disappointing as that was, it was 3 or 4 plays that just didn't go our way, but we weren't beaten by them physically. We matched up with them physically, and that hasn't always been the case against the 49ers, right? The other thing that I'm really encouraged by is as much as I liked what I saw in training camp, I still didn't know really who this team was. I feel like after 3 games, I kind of know who they are. And we've also seen them get better in key areas every single week. We're seeing that improvement. Now, part of that's, you're going to improve week 3 because you played your weakest opponent. You played them at home. But the Niners played them and barely got away with the win. And the Cardinals played them week 1 and beat them by 1 score, right? If you want to do comparative scores. So it's hard not to get excited about this team because the areas that we knew they had to get better in, we're seeing that improvement. And then it's the other stuff. It's the vibe. It's the intensity. It's the way that they fly around and how physically they play on both sides of the ball. Like, we're kind of becoming Brian Baldinger's favorite team, and that's not a bad place to be.
No, it's not. So I think it's fair to say with all three of you on what I'm hearing in general terms, though none of you necessarily jumped over this particular fence. Dan, you came close. You feel probably at least marginally better about the team than where you might have been in training camp. Not to say you're down on them in training camp or that you didn't think the season, but that the picture's only gotten rosier. Is this a fair assessment with all three of you guys?
I had them 2-1 in the first.
But I mean more beyond the record.
But
I'm not
I
talking
feel-
about record. I'm
Right.
talking about where you
I feel better about them than I thought I would after 3 games.
Yeah.
I will say this. I feel the biggest thing that's made me feel better about this team, Brandon, and the rest of you guys is Sam Darnold. And we've seen and I said this on a show I just recorded actually with Blake Murphy from the Redbird Reboot podcast. And we were talking about Sam. And I've said for the longest time, and I think Brandon, you and me and Mookie and all this and Dan had this discussion at training camp, that I don't expect Sam to put up the numbers he put up in Minnesota. I just don't think the volume's going to be there for him to do it. But I have this weird feeling Sam may overall be a more efficient and effective quarterback now than he was last year, even though he put up those great numbers. And you look at how quickly he's getting rid of the ball. Pressure rates there from the offensive line. I think it was 24 pressures against the Steelers, 26 versus Saints. But Sam's pocket presence has gotten a bit better in the last couple games for sure. But he gets rid of the ball so quickly and accurately that has made me feel better about the offense in a case where, hey, we got into a game, we need to put a little bit more on Sam's plate, and maybe that attempt number does creep up once in a while. I don't have as much of a scare factor of, oh, this is going to get really bad for us. I have more of a positive factor now of going like, yeah, you know what? I think Sam can handle that.
How about you, Mookie?
Yeah, what really has impressed me, not to the point of total surprise, but has really encouraged me, along the lines of the offense and indirectly involving Darnold, the wide receiver group. So Cooper Kupp, we might have to get our shovels and get him out of the coffin, because after week 1, it's like, oh my God, did we get sold a completely spent Cooper Kupp? Well, week 2, he was outstanding. And week 3 was just a targets thing. Like, he was really close to getting a touchdown on a screen pass that he's run 5 million times with the Rams. And, against zone coverage, he knows how to get open. He still does. So I think Kupp will have his opportunities later on in the season. I really want to focus on Jackson Smith and Jigba and Tory Horton for 2 separate reasons. One, Horton was kind of the big question mark because you cut MVS, and now this is a major opportunity for Horton to step up. To my knowledge, MVS has 1 target or 2 targets and 1 catch or something like that. He's doing nothing in San Francisco. So all the talk about, you need the speedy guy who can take the top off the defense and who defense has got to respect. Doesn't seem like he's getting a lot of respect to me, because neither Purdy nor Mac Jones is throwing his way. And it's not like San Francisco is just stuffed with receiving talent that's healthy right now. But Tory Horton didn't do anything in week 1, no targets. He was open on a couple of plays. And if you watch the Hawks film lab with Dan and Bryce, there were some missed opportunities, whether through pass protection breakdown or Sam just not seeing them. And they still, in some cases, ended up being good plays. It's just it could have been great plays with Horton. But week 2, play action shot, touchdown. And then I really liked the catch he had that led it to a 4th and 1 and an eventual seek by A.J. Barnett, where he's able to make a tough catch across the middle of the field, and he took a shot to the knee, and my heart's going, uh-oh, because we know why he missed so much time last year, but he's able to withstand that. And then against the Saints, that receiving touchdown was beautiful. It's a quick 3-step drop for Darnold, and he placed that ball to perfection. Horton was able to win off the line of scrimmage, hands catch it. So he had, 3 catches for 32 yards. His hands look as good as advertised and like what we saw in camp and in preseason. And then what he provides on special teams is a real bonus. And to have the franchise record already for longest punt return touchdown in franchise history is a major feather in his cap. So Horton is coming along, and he could have a season that is similar to Tyler Lockett. No, they're not the same player, necessarily, but Horton could end up being he could end up being a wide receiver 2 over Cup even by the end of the season if he keeps getting better. But Jackson Smith and Jigba, what he's done through the first 3 weeks, he has the most receiving yards through 3 weeks that any Seahawks receiver has ever had, 323. And he's had, 22 catches? He's got his touchdown last week, but he is becoming a super explosive threat down the field. So for perspective, he had 7 catches of 20-plus yards as a rookie out of, 60-something grabs. He already has 6 right now. And these are not screen passes. I think almost all of them have been 10 air yards down the field, and he's either getting yards after catch, or in a couple of instances, Darnold is looking for him deep, and he's getting open. Now, JSN is not going to be the type of guy like Jamison Williams in Detroit, or Tyreek Hill is absolute best in Kansas City, or I guess still in Miami, where he's going to be the guy giving you 70, 80-yard touchdowns just by getting open by 5 yards through sheer speed. But you don't have to be the fastest guy in the league to still be a threat to be, a downfield target. So I think that Smith and Jigba at this rate is playing like a top 5 receiver. If you want me to be a little less homerish, maybe top 7 receiver. And that is huge because with Lockett gone and with Metcalf gone, big responsibilities coming up for JSN, and he's meeting them right away. And he's a threat at all 3 levels right now. And I think that's great for the offense, but it's also great for Sam Darnold to have that immediate chemistry with the best receiver on the team. And I'm just looking forward to seeing what more JSN has in store for us, because he's looking exactly like the receiver that we thought he would be, and maybe even then some when he was taken in the first round.
Yeah, it's been very impressive. I have to admit, being one of those people that was a little skeptical, Mookie, about his ability to work out the outside. It is being definitely modified a bit by the fact they got those condensed splits, and it's been the great equalizer a little bit and really freeing him up on the outside, but it's working. And I think you're right. I don't think you got to qualify to top 7. I think, my guy, it's top 5 easy right now to start this year off, if not even a little bit better with the damage he's doing across the board. Just to touch a little bit on the Bryce point with Darnold, because I do want to dive into this with him. The number 1 rated quarterback by PFF, which I understand people don't want to give PFF any weight. I get that they're anti-PFF folks when it comes to grades, but you don't land at the number 1 overall as a quarterback in this sport just by sort of them badly grading you or poorly seeing it wrong. You got to be doing a lot of good things to get up to that spot through 3 weeks. Still a sample size. Don't expect it to be sustained. You're going to probably face some tougher defenses down the line. But I think that Bryce brought up a good point that I want to hear if you feel like the same way, that a lot of this upside of this team this year, Dan, raises with Sam Darnold able to perform at this level of efficiency. Does it not?
Absolutely. It's funny because, I think anyone who had experience with Sam Darnold leading up to this year would feel like, and we've talked about the Matt Hasselbeck comp before, and I think this kind of fits there too, that everything around him had to be just right for him to succeed. There's a lot of quarterbacks in the league that fit that category, but I think most people felt about that Sam was that way. But I think what we're seeing through the beginning of the season is we're still seeing some growing pains on the offensive line. We're still seeing this offense hasn't fully developed to what we think it can be. He's elevating them, as you said, to your point. And in a year that, 3 games in now, it looks like quarterback play around the league isn't as good as maybe we've seen it in the last 6-7 years. Like, the discussion has always been, which 5 or 6 guys are elite. And then there's always a big second class of guys that maybe are on the edge. That second class seems to have kind of faded into the rest of the league. There's so many young quarterbacks playing. There's been some really spotty quarterback play. And I'm looking at it right now. And I always provide the disclaimer exactly like you did about PFF, because people's opinions about their grades are all over the board, because their grades kind of all over the board. But you look at take your pick, whatever your favorite metric is. He's top 10 in everything. He's 1 on PFF. He's 8 in EPA. He's 3rd in success rate. He's 2nd in CPOE. He's 4th in turnover worthy plays. He's 8th in clean pocket success. He's 6th in non-play action. He's 6th in pressure to sack rate. His average depth of target is top 10. Every single metric, he's top 10 without the volume. It just speaks to how efficient he's been. I think Mookie, you used that word, or one of you guys did. And it's remarkable how efficient he's been. And he's doing it in an offense that isn't fully realized yet.
Yeah, he really is. That's the thing I've thought about this too, and I think it's a great point on your part. Mookie, I'll just push you if we back up on Bryce because I want to touch on a couple things with him mechanically with you, Bryce, with your background there. But part of why I think this is more than just a little sustainable and beyond just throwing it to sample size of 3 games, which I normally might do, to the point Stan just made. Kubiak has cleaned up the pass protection issues. Those guys haven't gotten better in pass pro. It's obvious that leaky ship still has some holes in the bottom of it. You're not running the ball anywhere near what we can qualify as being consistent. There's a lot here leading into a quarterback not playing particularly good, but we're seeing you're giving him this year we didn't have with Grubb. We didn't have with Waldron because other things existed, Mookie, under the prior regimes offensively wise. So we have an offensive play caller who knows what he's doing and how to put players in position for success rather than failure. Would you see it as kind of the similar sort of fashion or push back up against that?
I think that so far, other than week 1 and the bizarre refusal to do any play action,
shotgun city.
I'm just going to assume he got some
now.
Yeah, like the Grub virus or something, some new undiscovered virus that they flushed out of his system with some antibiotics. But basically, the last 2 weeks have been pretty much what I thought we would see in terms of Kubiak's play calling and the passing game. And it's leaning into Darnold's strengths. Darnold likes to throw it all over the field. He likes to be aggressive with pushing the ball down the field. And the fact that it's happening, even with all the question marks, like who's your deep threat on this team? Well, JSN is proving that he can be a deep threat on the team. We know Tory Horton will be. Cooper Kupp, less so, but they're still hitting explosives down the field to AJ Barner. So you can scheme. A good offensive coordinator can scheme damn near anybody open for a 20-plus yard play. So I think that with Kubiak and just the familiarity with Darnold, even going back to their days in San Francisco, he knows what Darnold is and what Darnold isn't. And what I think is encouraging regarding Darnold is his ability to improvise when the play breaks down. So like we know with all the years of Russell Wilson, phenomenal improviser in his prime. Like he can turn the anti-blocking offensive line into a touchdown because he was able to spin out of pressure, scramble. Sometimes he would improvise after blowing up the play that was actually working, but it still was something that thrilled everybody. Gino, not as good as Russ at improvising, but he could still provide us some of those highlights. But with Darnold, I think that's one thing that has impressed me is his ability to make something out of nothing. So like the Steelers game, I believe it was 3rd and 1. He's under heavy pressure, and he's able to flip it out to Barner. And that might have been the play before the big Smith and Jigba catch that kind of helped seal the game. And then opening drive of the Saints game, Brian Bresee, unblocked. Somebody blew the protection. Somebody blew their assignment. And he's able to escape, scramble, find Jackson Smith and Jigba. And the scramble drill stuff, I think, is extremely important to just have that communication and that ability to be in sync with your quarterback, because we know that Baldwin and Russ, incredible. Lockett with everybody, incredible at the scramble drill. But with Smith and Jigba, we're also starting to see him really get going as a scramble drill option, like that safety blanket for Sam Darnold. So I'm the one thing I would say with Darnold, and this was a thing that I noted last year when he was in Minnesota, he did not have to play from behind significant deficits very often with the Vikings. And the Vikings had a tremendous defense, and the Vikings offense was very good. So they weren't in must-pass situations very frequently. It's only the last couple of weeks of the season where they got blown out by Detroit and blown out by the Rams that things kind of went off the rails. 3 weeks into the Darnold era in Seattle, didn't trail by more than didn't trail by more than 7 in the Niners game, didn't trail by more than 7 in the Steelers game, didn't trail at all in the Saints game. At some point, even the absolute best teams like the Eagles are down 19 last week. They come back to beat the Rams to the delight of Seahawks fans everywhere. Seattle is going to have one of those games where they're down 14 out of the gate, or they're down 17 points at some stage of the game. And I think that's an area of Darnold's game I'd like to see more of. It's not like, I'm not going, boy, I can't wait for this team to be down 17. It's more like it's an inevitability because it happens to every single NFL team. It's a curiosity as to what happens with him and what happens with Kubiak as a play caller when they are in must-pass situations and are kind of having to throw out their game plan. Because if he can be effective there, I think you got a pretty complete quarterback. I mean, he's not the most mobile, but he can move. He can run. He's not an elite running quarterback, but he just has to be not a statue, not Phillip Rivers, essentially. He's got the arm. His accuracy has been really good at all three levels, and his decision making, I think, bar a few passes here and there, has been really, really good. So there'll be tougher defenses to play, for sure, including I think Arizona tomorrow night. Certainly Tampa Bay could be a tough defense, and Houston, as bad as they've been on offense, I think is still a very, very good defense. So there are going to be some hiccups, I think, for Darnold, but as a whole, I believe, and I said this yesterday, I said it Sunday, he is baseline a good quarterback. And if baseline good is if that's your floor, then I think Darnold's ceiling can be kind of that tier 1 or tier 2 quarterback that you would see in the Athletic, when they do those rankings. So for Seattle to have a higher ceiling, he has to play like at least a tier 2 quarterback, or else they have no shot. I think so far, from what we've seen, he's played at least like a tier 2 quarterback.
Yeah, it would have to be for me on that side, because though they haven't played from behind, your point, which is a valid one, I'm going to be interested to see what happens when they do get in those situations. You have been living in a lot of third and longs. Yeah, you have been missing that running game. You have been having a pass protection that best case could maybe be described as middle of the road. And I think it's only partially middle of the road just because he's getting the ball out of his hands so quickly. But that will be the thing to kind of monitor on that side of it as we go through this year, because it will eventually happen. When it comes to watching him mechanically look so clean in training camp as we did, Bryce, and that's carried over, you see the ball rolling to the left. And I'll tell you about the mobility side of it, not to take a shot at your man, Matt, Dan, but Matt's not getting out of Brian Breese's hands there. Okay.
No, that's the one difference between them. Sure.
Yeah. He's not, nor the Pittsburgh one the prior week that Mookie brought up either. Right. He's going down on both those ones in a heat, but Matt had good things he brought too. I don't want to shade Matt, but just kind of highlight a little bit of Darnold. So you see him on that throw. To me, that's an underrated throw as much, Bryce, because of the ball placement and where you're putting that, as much as it's hard to throw rolling to your left like that. I know it's not a big throw down the field, but he's making these kind of throws. To me, it's a Cooper Kupp on a third down where he's putting it away from the leverage of the safety onto the back shoulder. There's a lot of extra little detail things I'm seeing within how he's playing the position live in the game that aren't necessarily statistically tracked, though, as Dan mentioned, there's a lot of great stuff you can track off the back of what he's done. You seeing some of that similar stuff, and maybe if you can build upon that a little bit on some of the things maybe you're seeing detail wise from his performance.
So we'll start with just in the pocket. The one thing that I've noticed with Sam is he's feeling, compared to last year with Minnesota this year, I feel like he has a better understanding of where teams are going to want to pressure him. And it goes back to something that Jordan Palmer, who's his quarterback coach, talked about on 710 about how they work in the offseason. And what he'll work with Sam on is, okay, these are the movements you used in the pocket to escape pressure. These are what we're going to focus on, because this is how teams are going to attack you. And so you can see now in that Pittsburgh situation or that New Orleans situation this past weekend, how quick and efficiently he moves and gets out and goes. There's no wasted movement at all in there. It's all understanding of where I'm in that area, and I can get out and I know where my escape is to get out and go. And then his eyes immediately get downfield. And that's the thing I think Sam's done a better job of, is not where is the deep play downfield, where is the most efficient play downfield for me to make. And that's something where you talk about, hanging onto the ball and things like that. Like even when you're out on the move, sometimes quarterbacks will hang onto that ball a little bit longer than they should, instead of just getting the ball to the most efficient spot. And that's where you're seeing that with Sam now. It's not much of the young quarterback we saw with the Jets and with, the Carolina Panthers, where I got to hit that big play. I want that big play. It's more of, I'm going to take the play that's just available to me and we'll go to the next play right away. When he's moving to his left, though, the thing that stands out to me the most, and something, Brandon, I think you and me talked about at training camp, was look at his front shoulder. It's actually not at Jackson Smith and Jigba in any of those throws. It's his number 14. It's his chest. And the reason for that is if he has to throw something that's farther outside, like in that rollout to JSN, his shoulder's still pointing to the sideline if he has to fire something there. But he's not limiting himself by trying to point his front shoulder down at JSN and missing something that could be outside. He's leaving himself open to options. And that's an evolving part of his game as a passer on the move. The biggest thing I've noticed for the quick game, though, to get that ball out of his hands so quick when he's in the gun and when he's under center, how his feet are set up. So most right-handed quarterbacks, if you watch their feet in shotgun, will have their left foot back. And what they'll do is they'll take like a slight punch step, as we call it. It's like a half, foot step back, and then they'll kind of start their drop. What Sam's done is he's flipped his feet, so his right foot's back. So when he wants to throw quick on that slant, he's already preloading his foot from the start of the play. So he catches it, he can load onto it, and he can turn and let that ball go. And if he's throwing to his left, it's even quicker. So when you see him throw those quick slants to the left, that ball is coming out like the one he threw to Cooper Kupp in the 49ers game when he hit him on the stick route for the first down. That ball came out so quick. It was like under 2 seconds, ball was out of his hand. That small detail things mechanically that give you bigger windows to hit at the NFL level. And that's what you're seeing with Sam now is the detail, the attention to detail and his mechanics are starting to come out. And like some people talk about the fumble with Abe Lucas, he had this long wind-up delivery. His delivery is the exact same and similar to Josh Allen. And no one's complaining about Josh Allen's little bit of a dip in his delivery. It wasn't that big of a deal. It was the fact that Abe Lucas got shoved into his lap by a top D end in Nick Bosa. Like Nick Bosa is going to have one of those plays a game. Well, he was until he got injured. But Abe Lucas had to deal with that on that one particular play. The one thing I'll tell you guys to watch, though, is Sam's ball, and it comes in the Tory Horton one's a good example of it. If you get the end zone view of it from, I think they're all access, like the cinematic view, Sam throws that ball with such velocity that it's spinning tight, but it's actually shaking because of how much spin rate he gets on that football, which is something for a quarterback when you're talking about playing in the rain and you're talking about playing in bad weather conditions where the wind in Lumen can get kind of to be a bit of an issue. That makes a difference because that ball will cut through there. And that's what we saw last year when he threw that ball to to Justin Jefferson that beat us when he was here in that rain wind. His ball had no issue traveling in that weather. So that's just a small little thing about Sam Darnold that amazes me, is watching his ball like basically vibrate down the field in a tight spiral.
Some good points there, Bryce. So many things that I think lead you on him as we get into the depth of this season to believe that this is going to also get better with him. You mentioned one point with the weather, as the weather gets bad and he goes up against a quarterback with maybe baby hands, little tiny little baby hands that can't hold on a ball in the wet weather. But then also more comfortable with the offense, more comfortable with the personnel around him. Kubiak, more comfortable in what he's doing. I mean, I know it's a little bit of bias because we're all Seahawks fans here and want to see them be better as the year goes along. But I think that this is also not empty hope here, in that this should align to him being even a better version. Granted, the defenses are going to get tougher too, so there's a little bit of a trade-off here. But I do think that's some good points along where I think this is sustainable in what he is doing. Dan, all three of you, I believe, brought up the worry and the issue, which I think is a valid one, being the run game woes on the offensive side of the ball as we stay on this side of the ball. So it's much like I would point to a little bit with a prior point I was making a little bit on some of the success rate you're having. If you're getting the second highest amount of stacked boxes in the league, I think due because of the condensed splits, I think and also teams want to take the runaway and don't think Darnold can beat you over the top. So it's a combination, I think, of all those things. How much of it is that maybe, or how much of it is we're having multiple guys blowing blocks here on plays in the run game, and if they just blocked better, or if we just got them, not even where you're dominating or winning your reps sometimes, but that you're not maybe flat out losing. I'd like to interested where all three of you guys kind of stand on this, with you, Dan, first on that.
I think it's still a little bit of all of those factors. I mean, I never expected this offensive line to come out week one and be dramatically better than what we've seen over the last 7 or 8 years, be the offensive line that we've been wanting and hoping for the past several years. But I feel like we see signs, certainly. And there's still question marks. As much as I spent the entire offseason defending their process and approach to the offensive line this offseason as being the proper one, against people that just wanted to go out and sign all the free agents and bring everybody in from outside and flush them all out and start all over again, which, side note, let's go take a look around at some of the performances and even playing time in some cases of some of those guys everybody wanted in the offseason. It's not great. It's not a great list, right? It's still, I'm objective enough to understand that, we're probably still hunting for a guard next year in the draft, right? That like Anthony Bradford's better than we're used to seeing him, but he's still having a bad rep every third or fourth rep. We love what we see from Gray Zabel. The numbers and the grades seem to back that up. We love the athletic upside from Jalen Sundell. Sometimes, though, still worry about the anchor. He still gets pushed around a little bit. But to your point, we're also seeing teams stack the box because of the condensed splits. We saw a New Orleans Saints team in particular that looked like a 1988 defense where they were playing, not just a bare front, but a legit 5-man defensive line with their biggest bodies up there. I haven't seen a team do that in a long time. It just isn't, we don't see it in the modern NFL. But what encouraged me still is against Pittsburgh. And they, even though they were missing Derek Harmon in that game, I mean, they had some dudes, right? And they've got a scheme and they got a coach and they've got a history. We were able to get to some explosives and we were able to mix in, the concern is still that the stuffed runs and the no gain runs is, I think through 3 games, it's pretty much the same as we've seen the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. So the floor kind of seems like it's about the same, but I still feel like the ceiling's better. We saw a little bit of that in Pittsburgh. And then what really encouraged me this Sunday is there was nothing going in the first half. They were running into a brick wall. There was nothing in the run game, but it seemed like they were probably challenged at halftime to come out and be better. And just how hard they attacked it in the second half, how hard Kenneth Walker ran and how much they stayed committed to it. And it did feel like, that we didn't get the explosives we got the week before, but we were getting the 3 and the 4-yard runs. Even those 2 touchdown runs were incredible efforts from Kenneth Walker. I think we're seeing the effort and we're seeing the commitment to it. And I think at some point that's going to start to get better because of our previous conversation. The longer Sam Darnold continues to play this way, at some point defenses are going to have to try to adjust. And especially if they start to get even more of those explosives down the field. We haven't even mentioned Elijah Royo. I think he's going to be a factor at some point. And then that'll come. It'll all work together. I'm encouraged by the process. It's a little more baby steps than I wanted it to be, but I'm greedy.
So give me the 51 to 49% on this then. Is it 51 the box being stacked, or is it 51 that the personnel's not getting the job done?
I think it's tough because if you're committed to the wide zone, you need athletic guys. And a lot of guys coming out of college these days that are athletic, they're playing in air raid systems and spread systems. They're not people movers. So, the great offensive lines in this league can do both. We don't have 5 guys that can do both right now. And so I think we're having to get by with the best we can. But I still think there's more untapped potential we haven't got to yet.
But maybe more on the moderate side than the major side as far as that improvement goes for them.
You said it yourself. You said they look like middle of the pack. Didn't we all say at the beginning of the season, we'll take that? Like, let's just get there first. As
well, I think they're, but that's where they look like middle of the pack because of some of the things. But I kind of thought it this way, but I'd also hoped, I think, like you said, the baby steps that I'd hope for maybe one big step in the baby steps, 2 baby steps and then 1 big major one. But that also, in the way you're kind of talking about this, and I think it's realistic. I don't think it's out of pocket that, that there will be maybe marginal improvement we could hope to expect when it comes to just the running game specifically on this one. And that we're probably going to be uphill a little bit on this week in and week out a bit, just because the consistency is not there right now. And the box is still going to get stacked. Maybe once you pull extra guys out, because I thought the Steelers game was pretty extreme too, with the amount of bodies they were putting down there. It wasn't quite what the Saints were doing, but they were also committing pretty heavily to trying to make sure that they dissuading you from running the ball. Let's just call it that.
And also one more thing, I'm just sick and twisted this way, but like, we don't know if Anthony Bradford's going to play tomorrow. Like, he didn't practice, he wasn't estimated to practice Monday and Tuesday, and he was limited yesterday. He's questionable for the game. If he can't go, then we're going to see Olu Oluwatimi at center and Jalen Sundell slide over to right guard. And part of me kind of wants to see what that looks like.
That'll be interesting to see how that could go. I'm not sure if I want to see it on Thursday Night Football. I mean, give me that against a Saints-like team, and I'm on board with you. Later in the year, maybe Tennessee.
I don't know. Maybe feel better.
Not with Arizona. Not Thursday night. I can't do it on Thursday night. Even with Bradford, where he is. How about you, Mookie? Where are you at on that line? How does it drift for you?
I lean toward it being just the players are not executing very well. Bradford's strength is supposedly his run blocking, and I feel like he has been culpable in a few of those whiffs and then some of the plays breaking down. And Zabel has taken his lumps too. I mean, there was that one play, I think, in the New Orleans game. It might have even been, no, it wasn't the play that Oots got injured on, but one where Zabel just was a total ole, and it led to a loss in the backfield. So we want to talk about the stacked boxes. I'm just pulling this up from my Next Gen Stats account here. Kenneth Walker, 3rd, and hold on. Yeah, it's the stacked box rate, and I just had to resort the table. There we go. Among running backs, stacked box percentage, Zach Charbonnet, 2nd in the NFL. 40.7% of the time he's carried the ball, and of course he didn't play last week. Doing it in a stacked box, and the first is Bill Krosky Merritt for Washington, and then Kenneth Walker, 5th. So you got there are 5 of the 5 running backs who are seeing stacked boxes at the highest clip through 3 weeks. 2 of them reside in Seattle. And that's not a thing you want to see. I don't think they're equipped to really deal with that yet. So they're just going to have to find a way to either beat the stack boxes or get into more favorable run looks where, okay, if it's a 6-man front, it's a lighter box, then just spam the run plays and let Walker and Charbonnet or George Holani even make a play. It's kind of a bummer, incidentally, Jacardier Wright got injured so quickly.
Yeah.
Because, it's hard to tell how he got injured, but it kind of looked non-contact in that he took a bad step as he slipped on his last carry, and now he's gone for a bit. But the running game really is got some work to do. I feel like they're actually doing a little bit better on inside stuff than outside stuff. But I don't really have the stats to support that. At least for Walker, he's doing a little bit statistically better, but marginally in terms of expected points added through his inside the tackles versus outside the tackles. So the toss plays for sure have got to be fixed. And I mean the wide tosses. Like when Walker scored on that touchdown, it's a short shotgun toss. One of my favorite plays to run in old school Madden. As long as I can motion the back and I know I got man coverage, I'm going to do the short toss and I'm going to get easy yards that way. But like the longer developing outside tosses are, staple of this kind of scheme. They've not been really able to work it out thus far, but there's still time. The season is young. Would you rather they struggle now and then peak later, or look amazing now and then other teams make adjustments and then suddenly you can't run the ball late in the season? So I think I'm willing to give that time. Be interesting if Bradford doesn't play tomorrow and what happens with Sundell and moving out to right guard. And bigger picture, this is the last week before Christian Haynes can come off IR.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of wondering what's going to go on there and whether he's ready for week 5 and whether they even activate him or if they're just going to stash him for a little while longer. But that's a discussion for another day. So the running game against Pittsburgh, the second half, that to me was kind of what I think that we had hoped for, that they're able to just pound Pittsburgh into submission. It doesn't have to be 50, 60-yard plays. It can be a 20-yard run. It can be an 8-yard run here or a 10-yard run there. That's efficient offense. But what we can't keep having are the no gains or the losses in the backfield that set up unfavorable down and distances, because Darnold, I think, has done a really good job of getting them out of these jams when it's third and a bit, third and moderate or longer, but it's not sustainable. So I believe that the running game will fix itself over time. Doesn't mean it's going to be an elite rushing attack. Not saying it's going to be top 3 or top 5, but if we can take 12th through 15th, then I believe that, again, it's going to improve the offense substantially.
Yeah, I think that it will definitely get a little bit better, but I think you stack boxes. Bryce, I'll be interested in your thoughts on this. I just think that there's only so far you're going to go against the stack boxes, and any NFL team is going to get that kind of level of commitment to it. And then really where it comes back down to is just don't be the guy pushing the boulder up the hill, be pushing the boulder down the hill. And what I mean by that is that, hey, let the big dog hunt with Darnold, right? Let him take out that Bertha Onewood and let Jackson get one-on-one up and don't care who's out there and let's go. Am I thinking the right way on this, Bryce? Or no, just keep pounding away and eventually it'll improve with time. Eventually you rep it out. Eventually you get better in that way. And that's the proper way to go here.
So there's a couple things I've noticed with my, coach eye and watching the all-22. One, a big problem with us running those outside tosses, to Mookie's point, our tight ends have failed on their blocks a lot of the time. Barner, Royo, they've really struggled to be able to get that edge, because a lot of what you're doing with that zone blocking is usually the side you're going to, your tackle and tight end that's in line are really working that edge, and you're trying to turn that end and let that tight end climb to the flowing backers. Well, more times than not, we kind of get stuck in that situation where now they've even tried basically pin pull, where they're pulling their tackle and the tight end's trying to seal down. And Barner struggled with it. Arroyo, we know, is not a great blocker. Like when Saubert's in there, it's okay, but it's still not great. And that's why you've seen this more. And, a lot of people think it's gap run. It's really inside zone. And what they're doing with it is they're basically telling, if it's Charbonnet or if it's Walker, and it's been Walker as of late, hey, if we're running in zone right, your aim point is the outside hip of our guard. If it collapses, you bounce. If that end shoots the B gap, you're now bouncing it outside. And if you have a cutback lane, you're hitting that cutback and going back towards like the almost the one hole on if they were going to the right, the one hole on the other side, the left side of the center. That's where you've had more success with Walker, is you've allowed him to basically read that and then plant his foot and go. And he's done a much better job this year of doing it. Now, what is bothering me is the lack of boot action in the passing game on the play action side of things. We've seen it a little bit, but when you're playing against, to your point, Brandon, these stacked boxes, the way you start to get them to expand and get out of it is kill them with the boot action and run your tight end underneath or Cooper Kupp underneath on like what I would call a zip right into the flat. And we haven't seen any of that. You think about how many times Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan have killed us with that as Seahawk fans where, okay, we've stacked the box. We're going to take away this run. And all of a sudden Stafford fakes it or Goff fakes it, boots out, and Cooper Kupp's running underneath that end and they dump it in the flat and it goes for 20 yards. When you run that kind of complementary play off of it, it makes ends now, hey, we got to keep the outside because Sam could keep it and come outside on that boot action. Linebackers aren't so quick to fill inside. They kind of have to take that check and wait step. Does Sam have that ball? Is he booting out? Is Royo coming back across or AJ Barner coming back across like on a split zone look? And now you're getting them to freeze. And now your O-line that's still learning this system can get their blocks and maintain them that second longer. And now you're getting 4 or 5 yards a carry rather than your 3.2 to 3.8 a carry. And it allows you to not necessarily keep running into these stacked boxes, but it allows those stacked boxes to weaken a little bit and more gaps to appear in them than they currently are right now. Because right now, our play action game is basically straight back and it's trying to take deep shots over the top, which has worked, and that's fine. But eventually we're going to run into problems where that maybe doesn't hit that day. Now you got to have that boot action and count on your hands. We've only run boot, I think, 4 times all season. It's been pretty successful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like outside of the one that was the 4th down play against the Steelers, which never should have been called.
That traumatized Clint, that play.
Oh, that was horrible. But then he comes back and runs boot. And what do we have? Jackson Smith and Jigba catches a touchdown because the ends are so hyper-focused on crashing to muddle up that inside of that zone. You can now get out around. And then as soon as you start doing that more frequently, those ends aren't so eager to crash. And now your tackles and guards can actually get their blocks.
Bryce, I got a coaching question for you. Kind of combining what you were just talking about with what Mookie was talking about. I'm looking at that table now of the stack box numbers for running backs. And the Zach Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker numbers are basically right at 40%, right? You go down to 23rd, 24th on the list, you see Christian McCaffrey at 19%, half as much. One of the most dangerous running backs in the league, playing at a healthy clip for the first 3 games of the year. One of the only guys on that roster that stayed healthy. So basically the same similar scheme. It comes from the same DNA, same blueprint. What is it that Kyle Shanahan is presenting to teams that make them unwilling to stack the box to try and stop one of the most dynamic running backs in the league that they are willing to do against Clint Kubiak's offense, at least to this point of the season, that the Seahawks basically run the same running scheme?
Well, think about the game when we played San Francisco. How often did you see Brock Purdy boot out? He booted out and they ran over routes or shallow cross routes over top. And that's where, again, if you're going to be okay with letting them on the edge, cool, let them keep playing on the edge and they're going to dice you up, which is what Purdy did. We let him play out on the edge and bang, he's just taking his shot plays before Kittle went out. And then he was hitting Ricky Pearsall and all those kind of things. So that's where you're seeing it, is the boot game is so important in the pass play action that it indirectly or direct, should say, affects the run game in the box, because squeeze hard and your backers are going to squeeze those gaps hard to really muddle. Like what we do on defense to the Saints. You look at how, Dan, we talked about it on our film lab, how they squeeze that inside zone so hard on Kamara and didn't let him really go anywhere. Well, did the Saints really present anything on the outside with Spencer Rattler to make Boy Mafe or Derek Hall or Tank really respect anything potentially going out? No, they didn't.
Yeah.
But Brock Purdy did. So now when you get Brock Purdy on the edge and now Tank's going, okay, I can't just squeeze down, because if Purdy keeps it and boots out around me, I'm getting my ass chewed by Dirty for not following my job, which is I squeeze and watch. No, I'm hell-bent on going after McCaffrey. Okay, now Purdy's booted out around me and Kittle's running the over route and we dump it and it's a 12, 15-yard pickup. We can do those things. So like to the point of, we talked about JSN being super effective and Cooper Kupp needs to be more, involved. Elijah Royo and AJ Barner need to be more involved in this passing game than they are currently.
Yeah.
And like, in my opinion, playing against the Cardinals, who are playing tomorrow night, Elijah Royo should be a matchup nightmare for the Arizona Cardinals, for their linebackers. And I'd be running inside zone and boot away and running a Royo on the over route until the Cardinals prove that they can stop it.
The other thing we talked about the other night too, which might alleviate some of that, is is that they haven't gotten the running backs involved in the passing game. Just 5 catches for Kenneth Walker so far, and that's it. And that's something we expected to see more of. We certainly saw Kubiak do that and lean on Kamara last year when he was healthy in New Orleans. We're not seeing that yet either. It does feel like they just haven't gotten to parts of their call sheet yet. And maybe that's because they've been so efficient. The drives they've moved down the field so easily. They've been pretty quick drives. I don't know, but it feels like we're just scratching the surface on some of that stuff that we expected to see and we were kind of promised we would see.
Well, to Bryce's point on Arroyo, and it is a little bit bothersome for me on this because you did have those picks and you did have a position to be able to. I mean, we're speaking about this offensive line and getting through. Well, Bradford's a little improved, but we've got to get it. Well, you got to get by, and that you didn't go that direction, and you didn't do it with Milro either on the pick after that, and that's okay. So now you need to have a plan for how you're using that second round pick. You don't make second round picks and just go, we'll get around you next year. It'll be like maybe a catch a game for you. And that's all we're really going to be trying to really even have you in the game plan for. And that's going to be that's not to me good utilization of resources, especially when there could have maybe more of a competent offensive lineman. Not even at that point. I mean, just package picks to move up to go get what this team would look like right now with the Donovan Jackson and Zabel on either side. Let's say
they could have had Tate Ratledge. He went 7
and I'm not trying to play. I'm not trying to play to the hindsight here. I'm okay with Arroyo, but you got to have a plan for Arroyo. You guys, am I off my rocker on this one?
No.
Do I just need to be more patient, or am I right to?
No. And especially when you're single high looks that we're getting so much because teams are stacking the box. Like, to me, this is, you think about what they did versus the Steelers when they got the single high look and they basically high-low them deep down the field with the deep over from Orton and the under kind of shallow cross from JSN or Cooper Kupp. I can't remember who ran it on the other side. You can still do that, but you could run boot and tell JSN you've got that skinny post and you're going behind the single high safety in Arroyo. You're running the over route right in front of him. And we're going to high-low him that way as we roll Sam to that side. And we can have, Cooper Kupp run that slash under route from the backside. And you can do things like that. But let Arroyo get involved in this offense. Like, yeah, he's not an inline blocking tight end. We saw the problem with trying to take a guy that's a receiving threat and do that with him. It was Jimmy Graham. We never utilized Jimmy Graham properly. And it almost feels like we're going down kind of the same path with Arroyo here. I know it's only 3 games into his rookie year, but the guy's a matchup nightmare. Like, have we talked about Elijah Arroyo lining up outside on a corner in the 5-yard line for a fade ball because he's bigger and more physical than a corner, or running the slant? No, we haven't. We haven't seen him being used. And we heard about the talk about, well, we can use Elijah Arroyo as an X. Like, that's part of the reason why we drafted him was his versatility. You haven't done any of that yet. And when you're struggling in some aspects, like, yes, JSN's the focal point, and what he's done is amazing. But the rest of this passing game, as much as Sam's elevated it, it's still hyper JSN and kind of everybody else. It needs to start being like, okay, yeah, JSN had 70 yards today, but Elijah Arroyo had 4 catches for 60 yards or something along those lines. Like, get the dude involved in the offense.
Yeah, it's a dispersing offense, isn't it, Mookie? This is one that's best to be working around a variety of places because people are going to take the JSN thing away. And then what's your answer if you're going to still keep trying to?
Yeah, that's when it becomes a walk on eggshells moment. Like, if something happens to JSN, and we have to acknowledge, as much as, and we'll talk about it later, all these other NFC West teams are dealing with significant injuries. Maybe not the Rams as much right now, but certainly San Francisco and Arizona. Injuries can absolutely happen to Seattle that are devastating, or even short-term or long-term. And we're now at the point where, JSN was drafted to be kind of like, okay, if something happens to DK or something happens to Lockett, JSN could be one of those options. Well, now, if something happens to JSN, I don't feel as good about Cooper Kupp wide receiver 1 as I would if Cooper Kupp had a healthier knee and healthier ankles. I would still be patient with the Royal in this sense. And it's not him specifically or even Kubiak, it's the lack of volume in the pass attempts. So I think that if Seattle can have more pass attempts, and hopefully it's not pass attempts because they're trailing, but just throwing it a little more in general, I think that gives us a larger sample size because contextually, the first game, they hardly threw the ball because they hardly ran any plays, period. They ran under 50 plays. Second game, they did throw the ball around quite a bit. They got 33 attempts or something like that. And it was JSN and Kupp dominant. So at least there was a second actor there because week 1 was almost all JSN. And then week 3, predominantly JSN and then Horton secondarily, but Darnold threw 18 passes. And then Drew Lock in garbage time threw 2 or 3 passes. So you're looking at 21 attempts total. So if we have a more normal game and Darnold is throwing, somewhere in the range of 30 times a game, I think just off the math, there are going to be opportunities for Royo to get involved, because I agree with all of you. He needs to be involved more in this offense. I think Barner is a very good all-around tight end, and Bryce and I we'll always remember that car ride on the way to dinner after Lumen Field, where we're thinking this is a John Carlson regen. But with Elijah Arroyo, maybe he's a Jimmy Graham regen, just minus the deep basketball experience, where he can be that big X. He can also be an inline tight end who is a receiving threat. I know he's not a great blocker, but I think that his talent is too good to just shelve him and have him be like a relative non-factor in the passing game. So I think that will happen in due time. Just one thing I want to bring up, because we've been talking about the running game so much. One positive, because the running game is not always about just getting 5-6 yards at a time and getting 150 yards on the ground. There are situational aspects of this running game that I think early on are much improved from the Ryan Grubb team. Now, almost everything is improved from the Ryan Grubb team, but I want to provide some perspective through StatHead. So when you look at short yardage running, so I'm going to go with 1 to 3 yards. Doesn't matter which down it is. There have been 15 plays in which they have had about 3 yards to go, and they've run the ball. They've gotten a first down and or a touchdown 12 times. That's 80%. And that is good for 4th in the league. Same scenario, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th down, doesn't matter where, and you only got 1 to 3 yards to go. The Ryan Grubb offense, you want to know what the ranking is? Guess. Just guess, and I'll give you the answer.
32nd.
31st, 32nd. I heard a 27. 30th. 57% of the time when they had 1 to 3 yards to go, they ran 70 plays and were only able to get a first down 40 times. That's terrible.
30 of those were in the Jets game.
Yeah, probably. Yes, absolutely. So to me, that is a huge stat, because some of those runs are the A.J. Barner tush push. And that's working really well. So they found something there. The short yardage running game thus far has actually been really good. It's the more neutral game script stuff that needs to be worked on. But I'm fine with having that part solved, or at least so far working, because the thing with the Grubb teams, and even maybe the last Shane Waldron team, is not the short yardage rushing game was atrocious. So some of the bad red zone stats, as much as you want to pin it on Geno primarily, and yes, he had his Bozo type interceptions, the running game was abysmal. They were like struggling to get a yard per carry in the red zone in each of the last 2 or 3 seasons. So this season, they're starting off getting red zone touchdowns to Walker. I think Walker's got 2 of them, and then Charbonnet has 1 as well, right? So they're getting some rushing touchdowns, plays where you got to finish the job. And then when it's 2nd and 1 or 3rd and 1, or even 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, they're running the ball, they're converting. Now, I admit that some of these stats are a little bit tougher to really dive deep in, because StatHead does not parse out scrambles by quarterbacks. But even if you took those out, I think they would still rank pretty high. So if the Seahawks can at least have that down pat, then the rest of the stuff is the bigger priority. I'd be more worried if nothing was working. Like the running game, they're not explosive when it's 1st and 10 or 2nd and 10, and they're in these obvious passing situations, and they're not converting in short yardage. If they're converting in short yardage, you've got something there. And yes, the Seattle shove with A.J. Barner, says Ilana in the comments section. So
it's the barnyard, Mookie. It's the barnyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Wyman. Wyman came up with that one, didn't he?
Yeah, Wyman got that one. I like it.
I'm putting my hand up here for a second. So I just want to throw a stat out there for you guys. So looking at Seattle's passing offense, and we're going to talk about targets here. For a team that loves supposedly with Kubiak, loves tight ends, how many targets do you think combined between Saubert, Barner, and Arroyo there are for the entire season right now? Give me a number.
Like 8.
5.
10.
Mookie is the closest. It's 11. 1 for Saubert, 4 for Arroyo, 6 for Barner. How many do you think of those tight end targets are past 10 yards?
2. Like Arroyo had like a 13-yard catch, right?
It's 1. I'm almost certain it's 1.
Okay.
Yeah. It's that Barner catch last week.
Really?
They're all really. No, if you think about where we are,
Barner one was over 10 yards. That's over 10 yards.
Are you sure from the scrimmage it was? Because according to the stats that I've got right now, Barner's targets, he had 1. The one you're talking about was 10 yards to the right side. That was the one he got, was a 10-yard throw.
That doesn't seem right, because I swear that was like a 23-yard catch.
I know we thought it was a 23-yard catch, but it was 10 yards is what it was. It was a 10-yard completion. And so Arroyo, same thing.
You're
No,
talking
it's 23-yard. He's got a 23-yarder in the game.
Is it really?
yards,
Okay,
so-
so
It's
yeah, are we talking air yards or are we talking actually like on
That's the
like,
one. Remember, he dives out and he has to lay out. He's got one catch in the game.
so he's got 1 year. So he's the only one that has one catch over that distance of yardage.
Yeah.
For tight ends. Sorry, correction. I forgot about the Barner one in that game. For some reason I thought that was Saubert.
Oh, you're good.
But that's to my point of we're not getting these tight ends involved. But when you talk about how we said 11 targets out of the 70 whatever throws Sam Darnold's have gone to tight ends, 28 targets have gone to JSN.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody relatively close to JSN's target share. The next closest guy is Cup with 13.
So, Dan, where are you at with this with Royo? Are you marginally worried, or is it just, hey, this will play out, or we got to get this worked in if you're going to
I'm not worried.
that with it a little bit?
I'm not worried. I'm just annoyed.
Like that's the right word.
They intend to get him involved in this offense. We saw that. They were very intentional about getting his reps in training camp. He's going to be a part of this offense at some point. It's just, I'm one of those guys that I'm always like, I want to see all the aspects of the offense because I want it to all be on tape, right? I want the Rams to have to prepare to cover Elijah Arroyo, but that's just me as a fan. Bryce, as a coach, is that important to you, or is it? There's the other aspect of it is, well, if they don't see it, they're not expecting it, right? Like, where do you land on that side of that?
So for me, like, I like to have a defense have to be worried about every blade of grass. I don't like them to go like, oh, they don't know that we can do this, because the problem is when you don't rep it enough in game or in practice, then when the time comes to actually do it, it's never going to be as crisp as you want it to be. If you're constantly feeding other guys throughout the game, a couple things happen. One, and I get these guys are professionals, but we all know professionals have moments where they kind of take a play off here and there. If I know on this certain concept, I'm never getting the ball, I'm never even getting looked at, there's that odd chance I don't necessarily run that route as hard because, well, what the hell does it matter? Like, it's always going to JSN in this concept. And I'm not saying this to be like an ass, but it's the truth of the matter. Guys act that way sometimes. And the problem is if you use everybody, a defense can know JSN's the number one option. Cool. That's great. You know he's there. But if you want to try and bracket him and take him away, great. Elijah Arroyo is going to sit right in the middle of the field, and we're going to keep chunking away 10 yards a pop, throwing the ball to him. Or AJ Barner is going to get open on the corner route. Or we're going to swing the back because your linebackers are clearing out now because Barner and Arroyo are killing you. Now we'll get Walker involved. And oh yeah, don't forget, we got Cooper Kupp over here, and we're going to start hitting him on the stick route. Like, the more things you add, the more defense sits back and goes, okay, yeah, we can't maybe shift as much as we want to versus this certain formation because, man, they've been really getting Cooper involved on the backside of this because teams have been leaving him kind of one-on-one with that corner on an outside shade look, and Sam's been realizing it's there and just taking advantage of it all game long. So now we got to keep that linebacker to get to that hook flat area to take that away. Oh, but now that gives Barner a free release down the seam. So now we got to keep that safety on that hash. And then as you do that incrementally to a team throughout the year and teams throughout the year, that's where then you see the explosives that JSN is currently having still be a vital part of the offense. You're not hoping you're getting them. You can basically dictate when they will come out most likely.
Here's the interesting thing. I'm looking at this New Orleans Saints stats from last year, right? Obviously, Clint Kubiak's play caller there. They're 3 of their top 5 receivers in target share were tight ends. Juwan Johnson, Foster Moreau, Taysom Hill. They averaged as a group, as a trio, 8.2 targets a game last year. That's how much Kubiak has involved his receivers in the past. Now, that offense operated much, much differently. Alvin Kamara led the team in targets with 89, and then you have to go down to Cedric Wilson at 27. Shaheed gets hurt early in the year. He had 41 targets. He was a big part of the offense, and he gets hurt. So it might just be a statement, and Olave was hurt as well on their receiving core there. They didn't have a guy like JSN, and so he pivoted. But it's just a dramatic difference from his tight end usage a year ago, at least through 3 games anyway.
Yeah, and I do hope it's, to your point, the 8 targets, you got 11 targets in total through 3 games. So something's not quite adding up in there. And again, the ability to attack that single high coverage that Bryce talked about, seam killer routes, that type of thing. Say nothing of the cover 2. And, they don't drop the middle linebacker anymore in cover 2 like they used to back in the day between the middle hashes. So that's now the spot that you tend to have in modern defenses when they go to the cover 2 that's wide open, because the linebacker will stay up around the line of scrimmage to deal with the run game and take away flat routes or be a spy. And so just all the more reason, give me a stick nod route, Bryce, just a nice stick nod right up the seam. And I feel like just at least attack a little bit there if they're going to squish the box like they are so much with him.
Well, and to your point, Brandon, what did we score on in Pittsburgh with AJ Barner? We ran an under center Y stick. Like that is one of the staple West Coast offense plays. Sam takes a quick 3. Barner plays the leverage. You throw away from the backer who's not comfortable in that situation. Those are the type of things that work in this offense to allow you to start getting more things involved. And to your point, teams don't play a lot of Tampa 2 anymore, where that middle linebacker drops 15 yards and carries that seam, because most linebackers struggle with the athletic tight ends. Well, guess what? Like having an Elijah Arroyo and getting him split out, like you could come out in 12 personnel. Cool. AJ Barner and Elijah Arroyo on the field. So are JSN and Cooper Kupp. And all of a sudden you bump Elijah Arroyo into the slot. What are you going to get from that defense, especially if they're in a single high look to stop your running attack? Most personnel that we've seen has had actually 3 linebackers on the field. We've seen nickel, but teams are now playing more base versus us. Does that mean you're getting a linebacker on Elijah Arroyo? Like, how do you not take that matchup all day long? Like, that's the other thing I haven't seen a whole lot of with this offense is shifts. There's a little bit of motion, but nowhere near the other volume that we've seen with this, where you're shifting your tight ends a bunch. Like, there's a little bit here and there, but nowhere near what you can do with a guy like Elijah Arroyo, where you're like, okay, cool, we're out in 12 personnel. The other team knows, okay, we're going base. And all of a sudden, Elijah Royo stands up and goes, yeah, I'm just going to go trot out into the slot here, and I'm on the same side as JSN. Are you going to roll that safety at single high over top of Elijah Royo and let Cooper Kupp have literally one-on-one backside? Probably not. Or you flip it the other way and you move Arroyo to the other side, you're going to leave JSN, or that safety's not going to move, and you plus out that linebacker. Like, that's how you create mismatches, and that's what's kind of frustrating me is, like, you have these matchup chess pieces that are going to force a defense to do things a certain way you want them to, and you're not using it yet. And by the time you want to use it, it may not be something that's practiced enough or been something that you've been doing enough in game, not in practice, but in game, to actually have it be effective.
Some good points all the way around there. A couple donations we got in here from our folks in the house here. Pork Adobo on one of you guys' side says, with a $5 donation, thank you for that, Pork. If Bradford is out and Sundell is moving over and Lou takes over at center, or is it someone else taking over right guard? Love the Syndicate thumbnail and Mookie's hair growing out. Mookie, they're digging the hair going, man. You got to let it go. So yeah, you guys kind of covered this a little bit earlier, that your belief and understanding, and I don't have any reason to believe otherwise, that if that is the case, Bradford is out, Sundell does go to right guard, and then Olu does go to center, and we better not have a center injury in this game, or we're in some trouble.
Yeah, because what's your other option? Josh Jones is out. He can, and even that being said, I only mention that because he's played guard in his career, but it seems like they haven't even repped him at guard, so he's strictly a tackle for the Seahawks. So your Bryce Cable is your next option. Like, you're not going to put him in there and leave Oluwatimi on the bench. So that's the obvious move right now.
So it's interesting. In Mike McDonald's press conference, somebody asked him today, could Shane Lemieux play? And he said yes.
There we go.
Shane Lemieux, because he's got the experience of playing in the system all of last year, the terminology and everything. I would be very interested to see if Shane Lemieux doesn't get elevated to potentially be the backup emergency guard for, say, if you need one behind Sundell, if you lose out on Bradford being able to play.
That is interesting. Yeah. I would still think that the default would go, because they've just done nothing but prop up Sundell and his performance, and they've made such an intentional effort to move him around and cross train him. And, we've been told that that's the move, but the Lemieux thing's interesting. I just, we've talked about him for months, and he's a guy that I'm intrigued by. I thought it was a smart move to come in for veteran depth, but he's never been very good when he's gotten opportunities to play.
Yeah. You know what? I think what we could see is Amari Kite get elevated. We didn't talk a whole lot about him in preseason, but from what we saw in preseason, I actually thought he looked all right.
Yeah.
And when Cross was out with the hand surgery, Kite was getting some runs with the twos while Josh Jones was playing with the starters. So they need a backup tackle, swing tackle more than they need a reserve guard, I think, at the moment, because let's say, Bradford doesn't play. You got Sundell at right guard. You got Olu at center. Well, you got two centers there. Unless they both get hurt, you're fine there. But if another guard gets hurt, then maybe you end up playing Cable Dew or Richmond, like one of the young guys ends up having to get put there in a pinch. But, questionable status with McDonald, at least the last year or so. Teams, I think, when they do the questionable tag, more often than not, it means they're going to play. I wish that the NFL would give us the probable stuff again. Did they really change it because Tom Brady
always tied to it? Yeah,
did Belichick do a thing one year where everybody was probable?
Tom Brady probable shoulder. Yeah,
Zach Charbonnet was full participation in every day. Of course, Monday was an estimation, and he's questionable. Like and yet Anthony Bradford is limited, and he's questionable. But Emin Wari was limited full today, and he's doubtful. It just doesn't make sense. Make it make sense.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to understand, but I like where you guys are at. We got maybe some options. Lemieux makes me feel a little bit more warm and fuzzy about this situation. I might be getting a little bit freaked out here because it is getting a little lean at certain spots. Dogzilla, thank you for the $2 donation. Also on one of your guys' side here, says, how were we allowed to play 3 quarterbacks on Sunday?
Because they were all
Milro. Yeah, 3 active. Milro wasn't designated as the emergency like he was against the Steelers.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And something's got to be said about these 2 Milro snaps being just runs to nowhere. So
I'm good. I'm good with
they're setting it up.
I'm glad you brought this up.
In the long game, they're setting it up for the Rams in week 12 or whatever it is. They're setting
I think what they're setting it up for is for Jaylen Milro to throw a sick fade route to Sam Darnold on the outside. And we're about to see Sam high point the ball perfectly against their best corner for a touchdown. That's going to be the best first touchdown pass in the history of the NFL right there.
Yeah. It's so lame, dude. It just, you can tell what's coming. There's no read option possibility. He's keeping it the whole way. And you can tell it from the second that he's in the huddle pretty much with the body language. Look, with Darnold playing like he is and bringing what he is to the table, it just removes the necessity to bring this guy out for these packages at this point. If you were on the other end and we thought we were getting the Darnold that many Seahawks fans thought they were getting here, I might feel differently, but just put it on the shelf. Maybe bring it back out later on down the year. Milrow doesn't look comfortable back there. Like the game looks too fast for him right now. And it's running the read option game. It looks too fast for him right now. I just don't really see the upside in doing this at this point.
Can I make my coaching point here, which is driving me nuts with this? It's a complete waste and drive killer when they do it. If you look at their history when they put him in, it completely throws the drive off. And
yeah,
if I'm going to put Miller in the game right now, I'm putting him in an I formation.
He's going to make the best point.
Your face froze right as you were just
sorry guys, but my point is he needs to be your short yardage under center quarterback, where him on that boot now scares the shit out of a team, because if he keeps it and goes around the corner, you're in trouble. And what do you try and do a lot of these times? Like right now, you got AJ Barner doing the barnyard, whatever we're calling it. I'm not sure what we're calling it, the barnyard. But Milrow in those situations makes a lot more sense than, like, to Brandon's point, you put him in shotgun. It's 2nd and 7 or whatever it is. You know he's not going to throw the ball. They don't trust him to, and it's not even really a true read option. Like, that doesn't do anything for a team. No team's sitting there going, wow, I'm terrified of when Jaylen Milro walks in the game. If Jaylen Milro starts running those smaller packages in that regard, and he's booting out, and a couple times he boots it and gets around the edge, and now all of a sudden it's a 3rd and 1 turns into a first down and you gain 20 yards, teams are going to go, shit, when Jaylen walks in on goal line or something like that, like, we can't just crack. Like, our end has to respect him going around that. The way they've got it currently, it's like, okay, cool. Like, we're just going to play this the same way we play a Lamar Jackson or anyone like that. And he's less confident in that role than Lamar Jackson is.
Yeah. He definitely feels a little nervous when he's out there rolling. How about you, Mookie?
You can see it.
Are you good on that? Are you good on these packages, or still just, hey, it's a good curveball, try to roll it out there?
I think what we have to acknowledge, because all of us were at camp, and Dan was at way more camps than us because he got some special access for
got that privileged access.
Yeah. So, and Dan,
behind the curtain.
Yeah, you could correct me on this, but did you see Jaylen Milro play even one snap with the starters?
No, they didn't let, not a single rep.
Not a single rep. And we saw them not play a single rep with the twos. Right. And then even in the preseason game he played, he got a couple of snaps with the twos, or some of them, like Bobo and Durik, and MVS was nominally a 1, but now he's elsewhere. And then everything else was just third string stuff. So to go from that to pivoting to a specialized package when you haven't done any reps with the starters, that's going to take time. So I think that maybe deeper into the season, we could see more plays eased in that Milro's comfortable running. But situationally, I don't like the way that they used him for both snaps. Like in longer down and distance, I'd rather not see that unless it's going to be a potential pass. Because when it's just telegraphed like that, it really is wasting a play. So the second one, luckily it's a blowout, so I wasn't bothered that much. But Milro as a short yardage option, sort of like in preseason, in the Kansas City game, able to get that sneak. He got the push for the first down. So that was, I guess, his 1 rep with the starters in a way throughout preseason. Like that to me works. Or like 3rd and 1 shotgun, or even a pistol. You can run a QB power. You can run a read option. That to me is more logical than, hey, it's 2nd and 9. It's Jaylen Milro time. Like if he's not ready for anything beyond like a handful of plays, to me that's kind of throwing away a play and making life harder for yourself. So I wouldn't be surprised if Milro's inactive tomorrow. But over the next few weeks, I think it's going to take time. But because of the way Darnold's performing, as you all said, there's less of a need to absolutely see him on the field. It's like, it's cool. He's a shiny utility. But guess what? If Darnold wasn't playing well, and then the natives were restless and looking for Milro, we wouldn't be talking here. We wouldn't be sitting here being all optimistic about this team at 2-1, because the team would probably be 1-2 or even, well, probably not 0-3 when you beat that team by 31, but looking like they need a true franchise quarterback. The way that Darnold is playing now, I think only helps Jaylen Milro in the sense that the push or the rush to have him in there for any reason is lessened because Darnold looks this good.
You gonna make a trifecta here, Dan, on the let's put this?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be surprised if he's active tomorrow. I think that's a great point. I think that roster spot can be used elsewhere. I think especially with some of the questions health-wise on the offensive line, they probably want to have an extra body there. Maybe, Lemieux is brought up even if he's not going to start. My thought on the whole Milro thing is we've just spent an hour talking about how this offense is still a work in progress and that we like a lot of the things we see from it, but it hasn't solidified yet. They still have some other things to dial in. And until that happens, I think any rep you give to Jaylen Milro is detrimental. And so, save that thing until later in the year. And then when I think it might have some value is one of those games where the offense just isn't working. Like nothing's working right? You can't run the ball. Darnold's struggling. Maybe you bring him in and you try just a play here or there to kind of give a spark. Like we've seen the Saints use Taysom Hill that way. And against us to great effect in one particular game I remember. And so I just think right now it doesn't make sense at all. Like in that game, like Mookie said, so what? Like, they could have done it 2 or 3 more times and it wouldn't have mattered. But week 1, I thought it was a huge contributing factor to that first drive. You come out, you hit JSN for a 22-yarder, you're rolling. It's like, oh, okay, we're across midfield already. And then you bring him in on 2nd down. Just killed that drive.
I feel like you pulled the e-brake, right? It's like grabbing the e-brake. You're about to go getting up to speed on the car, and all of a sudden,
before your brand new franchise quarterback even got a chance to kind of get his feet under him. So I'm cool with just putting that on ice for a little bit. We've shown it on tape. The Cardinals have to prep for it. Cool. But let's just kind of set that to the side for a little bit. He can be the emergency quarterback.
So this is what I'll say about the only time this year I thought in my head, this is a great opportunity to put Jaylen Milro in the game. It'll cause a team problems was when we kicked the damn field goal versus the 49ers. That was my moment where I went, that's when you want to use Jaylen Milro. Make the 49ers freak out. It's 4th and 1. Put him on the field in that short situation. Put Utz and Charbonnet back there and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to come at you. We're going to put the guy that can scare you on the edge out there, whether you put him in gun and do like a crossbuck kind of action to a QB power. But that would have frightened them more if you're going to go for it. That was the opportunity to use Jaylen, turn around and kick the field goal. Go put the, go finish the drive. That's when you use him, not 2nd down in the middle of an opening drive.
And if you want to confuse the defense, instead of just bringing him out again the next time we see him and do the same thing that they did to no effect on the first 2 times, maybe bring him out in one of those tight splits, right? And have him off the tight end and have Darnold in the shotgun. And then, now a defense has to wonder, is he going to come out? Is Darnold going to motion out? Is he going to come in? Are they going to use him as a slot guy? Are they going to pitch it to him? What are they going to do? I think that might cause more confusion than just like, oh, okay, he's going to run a read option. Like, teams know how to defend that.
You don't want to telegraph to defenses. It's just not a good item you're helping them out, giving them an advantage. You don't need to give them on that side of it. We've got a great question here that's actually going to be really a tougher one to unpack, I think, than it might seem on the surface of it. The Seattle Seahawks have the full allotment of their draft capital. They're sitting on cap space. I'm even going to make this question hard on you, gentlemen, where you don't get to pivot to me, which I know all of you are going to try to do. Well, we don't know where they're going to be. Is it 3-3? Are we 4-2? No. We're winning a couple games here over the next couple of weeks. I'm mandating it here with my godlike power of the host. So you guys have to operate with this as though the Seattle Seahawks are second place in the division minimum, that they are looking in a position to go and make a playoff push run. The other factors at hand I just talked about. We're going to start with Mookie on this one. Feet to the fire. What do you do? Number one is, do you be aggressive? And then if you are going to be aggressive, maybe it doesn't have to be the player, but what position, this is the tough part for me on it, what position do you look to then address? Because I know some of you guys are going to try to say right guard, by the way. I got to limit guard. Do we really think offensive lineman is going to be available in mid-trade deadline?
Right.
I don't. So you can't take the easy way out on this one. You guys got to take the hard question. You got to take the tough path here. You can say no, but if you're going to pick something, it can't be the no, bro. Yeah, we'd all love to have an offensive. We're not getting that. Not the trade deadline, probably.
I think they could use more linebacker help because Tyrese Knight does not look healthy and he's been struggling a bit. And I think it bears itself in the way that they're giving Drake Thomas more playing time. And the fact that this was even a thing when Thomas hardly played last season, and now he's getting more work run this year. I feel like they're not comfortable with the linebacker. I know they got Chris Paul Jr., Pooh Paul on the practice squad, and Chaz Surratt could have been like he is like a special teams demon, it seems. I mean, that's really good, but not every special teams demon is meant to be a good linebacker in actual playing time. But if there are sellers at the deadline and there are any like halfway decent weak side linebackers, I think that's the type of kind of low cost move that John Schneider would be willing to make. Sort of like what they did with Quandre Diggs, 5th round pick even, and to bolster the defense because Tedrick Thompson was Tedrick Thompson. Or like the Carlos Dunlap trade. And that was born out of not having any pass rush in the middle of 2020, but they got Dunlap for BJ Finney, right? They didn't even attach draft picks, or maybe they attached a 7th.
There's a 7th and BJ, yeah.
Yeah, so the Seahawks legend, 0 snaps played BJ Finney. So kind of in that vein, I feel like linebacker is an area that the Seahawks might be sniffing around. Edge rusher would be tough because, you know what I fear? Is that because of the way the Bengals season could easily go south, that they end up dealing Hendrickson anyway. And a team like San Francisco, if they get healthy, could be going, I think we could ride with Trey and maybe even extend. We could have Hendrickson and Bosa for a couple seasons. But it's not nothing that, and we talked about this when we were all together at Fast Fashion, that Seattle has been sniffing around for pass rushers, sniffing around for edge rushers. And we've kind of heard through the grapevine that they've been at least inquiring about the availability of the top end guys. So whether that's Watt or Parsons or Hendrickson. Now, obviously Parsons got down, the other two stayed, but I think it is something that they were still maybe looking for that little extra juice on the edge. Now you're going to get it in the middle of the trade deadline. Maybe if it's like Kayvon Thibodeau, because the Giants are hopeless and they've got Abdul Carter and they've got Brian Burns. So they got other guys there. That could be one of those moves that they consider, but I'm personally more concerned about the linebacker depth because if something happens to Ernest Jones, keeping in mind this dude had surgery in the offseason, he's got some knee issues. I think that the defense could really suffer without even mediocre level linebacker play. My thing with Knight is I think he's got the athleticism, but his instincts might be a bit of a problem. He's still not covering those play action crossers well at all. So he needs to really get going there. So yeah, I'm going to go with like another linebacker, off ball linebacker. That would be the area I would want to improve. Really over anything else. Cornerback, I am totally changed now because of the way Josh Jobe has played and the way Darion Kendrick has played.
Jeez.
Like that has kind of sealed that off for me in a way I did not expect. So really it's just off ball linebacker for me is like a priority at the deadline.
Can't push back against any of that. With Drake Thomas, you're bringing him out for the past situations, it seems like, as much as anything. And last year you had moments with Tyrese Knight matched up one-on-one with Marvin Harrison out there in space, matched up with the Wilson, the other kid that the Cardinals have matched up in space. So I think that, to your point, I'm not sure everything's super healthy there. Remember, there was that whole nebulous injury there right before the start of the season, which they weren't really clear on what it was.
Right.
You know, we got some good news on it. What good news on what?
Yeah.
And he's got something on his knee. If you look, he's got a little wrap of some kind on his knee.
Right.
Huh?
Well, there was the second thing too that they just said was a medical issue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
what it
it's,
was.
I think that's as good a thing. And like I said, yeah, Jermaine Pratt, maybe from a Raiders type team that you may go grab if they're in sort of sell mode as a will out there. How about you, Dan?
You know, if the Dolphins fall way out of the race, they have a couple of linebackers. They have a couple inside linebackers.
Fan base is obsessed with Jordan Brooks. My goodness.
Their other guy might be available too, though. You know, Terrell Dawson.
I'm just saying, if we got an issue with Tyrese Knight covering in space, Jordan Brooks is not the answer. Can we acknowledge and understand that? This is a man that gave up 1,000 yards in coverage from an off-ball linebacker position.
I do wonder. My first thought when you ask the question is, I wonder if the interior defensive line guys are playing more snaps than they would like them to. That rotation isn't deep enough. We saw him last year go out and get Roy Robertson Harris, right? Just kind of a functional guy, doesn't cost a lot to give up, a veteran. McDonald talks a lot all the time about how it's, you know, our scheme's not easy to learn, right? It's not easy to pull someone in from another organization and teach them our scheme. You know, maybe a rotational guy there. That guy could be Riley Mills though, but how much are you going to put on a rookie's plate, you know, when he's ready to go? So I still kind of feel like, you know, first of all, knock on wood, especially when you look around the division, like they've been really fortunate with health there. We like what we're seeing from Mike Morris getting more into the rotation this year, and it looks like he's kind of taking a step forward, but there's not a lot behind it. You know, they chose not to elevate either of the nose tackles this last weekend and go lighter because they had some other needs on the roster. So that's still a concern for me, and I could see them, you know, just trying to find another guy. And ideally, maybe even a guy that can play nose. You know, I know the name Mazzie Smith keeps coming up, and maybe that's a guy that the Cowboys are willing to part with. But just somebody that can be a rotational piece on that interior defensive line to spell those guys, because, you know, Reed, Leonard, they're on the other side of 30, right? And Byron's not the biggest guy in the world. Like I wouldn't mind seeing another guy in there that could rotate.
And where in the world is Jonathan Hankins? Can you guys spot him? I don't know where he's at. Is he in Seattle? Is he out in Arabia? I don't know.
I seem to remember many months ago when we were told that it was just a little back thing. He's an older player. We're taking care of him. He's going to be fine.
Yeah, it remains a little bit of a strange item, the nose tackle position with the Seahawks and their approach to it this offseason, especially as despite the fact Murphy's got some productivity there in this early part of the year, they still have him in nose tackle hell a little bit. How about you, Bryce? Where do you stand on this one? Are you bringing out the dice, having your woman blow on him? You know, are we?
Oh, long.
Are we going all in?
Well, I will say this before I go. There is a guard. I don't think he's an upgrade. I'm not saying this is where I'm going with this, but there's one name that's kind of interesting to me, and it comes from our old head coach, and that's Powers Johnson. Is in the doghouse.
He
said something really weird today about him. Did you see that?
Yeah, and that's where I could see, like, maybe Seattle takes a swing at a guy like that. He's not necessarily a perennial
no-brainer player, by the way. I don't understand this player doesn't work with
I agree with you guys completely, but that's the only lineman in my head. The last couple of weeks I've been like, they wanted to upgrade or try and get another young guy in here that might be someone, maybe take a swing there, because he played really well last year. I loved his, especially at center. But anyhow, I'm going to go.
Haven't they been guarding him? Haven't they been trying to put him in guard?
Yes, Pete kicked him out of center.
Yeah,
but he wants to play center.
Today he was at. Yeah, he said in the offseason, I'm better at center. I want to play center.
And is it? I'm just saying, is it not like Pete? Like, I'm just saying, like, if there's been a man in the past who's taken a center, what's Ethan Posick doing right now with the Browns? Is he playing guard or is he playing center?
Yeah. But he was asked specifically today if Jackson Powers Johnson might move back to center, his more natural position, because that line's struggling so much. And I think Pete's exact quote was absolutely not.
Yep. Wow. That's exactly what he said.
And nobody looked at Jackson coming out. I don't remember anybody looking at him and saying, this is a guy that's going to give you positional versatility between center and guard, which people say all the time with the guys that are like that. So why Why have you, and it's just a Pete thing to do. Posick was the same way at LSU. He didn't play guard at LSU. He was a center for 2 straight years starting before he came out.
He played
Yet you moved him to
tackle.
guard through the first 2-3 years of his career, and it wasn't for the betterment of the player.
But then we started Drew Nowak at center because that made sense in Seattle.
My God. Christian
Sorry.
Jericho.
Sorry, I had to throw that out there.
I'm so traumatized by that late teens offensive line. Yeah.
So anyhow, that's my one lineman. That is my one lineman, Brandon, that I will throw out there is Powers Johnson would be an interesting one, I think, at that point. But I'll go with edge because Mookie took linebacker, which is something I wanted. Dan took nose tackle, so I'll go with edge. And I think there's, the reason why I say is we don't know how long Chenna's going to be. Is he going to stay healthy through the whole year? Tank's been playing well, but does he last the whole year? So 2 of your edge guys are older guys that have had injury problems. Then you're banking on 2 of the young guys in Mafe and Hall to basically, if either one of those guys go down, take more of that. I would either try and look at going after a young guy, maybe a Thibodeau potentially, and depending on what goes on in New York. I know there's character issues, but taking a swing, he does have talent. Mookie already mentioned Trey Hendrickson, and maybe that becomes a possibility if the Bengals fall on their face, which is by the way, they played against the Vikings. It's a very real possibility. But the Miami Dolphins are interesting, and there's 2 guys down there, Bradley Chubb being one, and the other one being Phillips down there. And I know Phillips is an injury prone, but if you're looking for a guy to rent for half a season, right, to get some production, to come in and add something to that edge room of maybe a little bit more finish, those are some guys and names I'd kind of have a look around and see. Like if we're talking about the Seahawks at the bye week being 6-1 or 5-2, and you're going to make that push, like that's kind of the guys. I don't necessarily look for the longevity of, hey, because I already got 2 young guys I want to keep going, but maybe I look for one of those older, can still produce in the rush, add some, rotational value, and I'm not going to have to spend a massive load to go and get one of them. So that's where I would go kind of on the edge side is maybe look at like if you want to go young, Thibodeau's a guy you can see if you can revitalize what he's done. Kind of like, to a point like what we tried to do with Dion Jordan, a top pick that flamed out kind of a thing. Or you go guys like a Bradley Chubb or older guys like a Bradley Chubb or a Phillips and see if they can produce for half a season for you in a good rotation with other players where you're not asking them to carry the load of being the main guys on the D front.
I think you guys are all being very good realists on this. I love all of your guys' thoughts as far as these being real true possibilities, I think, of a way and direction that this team could go. Let me just grind on down this with one last point down to this area of things and with a yes or no answer from you guys on this. You basically go with maybe just one more loss up until that trade deadline point where you've got to make a call. Let's not get specific like a Trey Hendrickson. Maybe we could put that in as a theoretical one, but you've got to make a Von Miller equivalent like trade like the Rams did. It's on the table to be had, and you're at that record. Do you make that kind of jump and that kind of, we got to sacrifice a little future because now is so good right now and the moment's right strike, the kettle is hot. Or do you say, no, I'm looking for more of like the moves you just all advocated for, which was a little bit more of, you top the tank off, you give it one more little squeeze, but you don't hold down. You don't hold down, just a little, that little just. So where are we guys at with a kind of yes or no? A yes, be aggressive if you're in that standpoint to do so, or no, keep it in that under the radar place of things. Dan, you first.
Honestly, right now, I'm a no. I don't see it. I think they feel really, really good about this roster. They got some guys that are coming back from injury still. They do have reinforcements. I know I said defensive line. They do count. They expect Riley Mills to come back, and they're very high on him. I just don't. And they only have 6 draft picks next year. I know how much they value those. They've given up some of those in the last couple of years. I feel like just the mindset of this organization right now and how good they feel about where things are headed is that if you had to make me pick a yes or no right now, I'm a no.
Mookie?
This is tougher than I think it is.
Because I know. That's why I love this question. It's a tough ass question.
Because I can make the case for yes in the sense of if Darnold keeps playing like this, you go, can we maximize Sam's window over the next couple of seasons? In which case, try and make that splashy move. That's going to give up a first because we really don't tend to see that all too often at the trade
Yeah.
deadline.
Yeah,
the NFL trade deadline, not nearly as interesting as an NBA or a Major League Baseball trade deadline. So when it comes to mortgaging the future, I guess, is sacrificing the future for the present. The one thing that is different about this year's team compared to when they made other, bigger trades in years past is they didn't have a whole lot of great young talent on the roster already. So based on these last few draft classes, so going back to 2022, and they've already got one under contract with an extension, and hopefully Charles Cross gets extended too. They have a lot of young players on this team who are going to be around for at least into next season, such that if they want to make a big trade for a veteran player, unless they're giving up somebody of like a bit, major standing, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. When they were doing like the Leonard Williams trade, I wasn't totally thrilled with the Leonard Williams trade because of the capital that they gave up. And there were still some issues with the roster, and they weren't stocked with talent. The 2022 class looked good, but we didn't really have a great read on the 2023 class through the first few weeks of the season. Now, where I would lean no is just the principle of, it's going to be the NFC is kind of wide open. There is no super dominant team right now. Green Bay just showed, no, they're not invincible magically. And then Philadelphia, as awesome as that comeback was, their offense is extremely hard to watch. And it's to the point where I feel like they're kind of skating by. They're 3-0, and all their wins have been like kind of in the last minute. But the no would be where Schneider thinks, you know what, this roster is good enough to at least be in the playoffs, and maybe not quite good enough that they can make a Super Bowl run where they're just one player away. Maybe they could look at it another year down the line, but I'm kind of erring toward the side of caution just personally, where I think that Schneider does better with the more frugal moves. So I'd say the Williams trade has worked out. And in hindsight, a second and a fifth is not a huge trade. But I think that the more frugal trades like the Diggs trade or the Dunlap trade, I'm sure there are others that I'm kind of forgetting as far as mid-season trades. I think those are the types of moves where I think that Schneider is at his absolute best. And I believe that there will be more of those available at the deadline than there will be big game hunting to kind of steal from Michael Thompson or field goals Starfrider there. So yeah, I think I'm persuading myself to no. I was going to say yes, and I think I persuaded myself to no. And Dan's made a great argument too.
We got 2 no's there, Bryce. Where do you stand at on this one?
So you said one more loss, right, Brandon? Going into that bye week, which is the trade deadline, week 8. They're 5-2. I'm a yes. Like, if you're thinking, like, you listen to John Schneider and then talk, they're about competing for championships. That is like their mantra. We want to compete for championships. We are to be a championship caliber team. And I get the hesitation, but to Mookie's point on the yes, you have a lot of young talent. You currently have a quarterback that looks like he could be your franchise quarterback, and he's not 30 years old. He's 27 years old. So you kind of have a little bit of a freedom play here where, like, if there is something that presents itself like it did for the Rams with a Von Miller type that is going to come in and make an immediate impact to a unit that is already strong and push you over the top and really make you get that chance at getting the division and a home playoff game and really challenging in a wide open NFC, then yeah, take the shot. Do it. Like you've been saying for years that you want to be this championship team. Sometimes you look at what the Eagles do and you go, yeah, they take shots when they have those opportunities. Sometimes you got to do it. And I'm not saying like, don't, I'm not against the whole don't do it thing, because I get the point. The team is very connected. So if you make this, it has to be a calculated decision. But I'm also of the opinion here that we've kind of been hanging around in mediocrity for a little bit here, purgatory, whatever you want to call it, as a franchise, where we get in the playoffs or we just miss the playoffs. Like, making a move like that, where you're going and getting a player with a team when you're 5-2 and really have an opportunity in a division that's kind of beat up right now, and you can kind of push yourself and just take off and go in a conference that's wide open, take the shot, go do it. Go make a decision. Like if it's Trey Hendrickson and he's going to come in and add, 10 sacks over the last half of the season to you potentially, that could be the difference between you playing in the NFC Championship game with a game to a chance to go to the Super Bowl, or you getting knocked out in the wild card round or the divisional round.
I'm with you on this, Bryce. I think that when I look at the modern teams getting to the Super Bowl, if you're going to make a Super Bowl run and you think you're that team, and I know this year's an improbable year to make that kind of run, but it is a little bit more wide open than the NFC, I think, than we may have thought it was going to be walking in. And that if that is on there, it's a bit of the cost of doing business if you want to be that Super Bowl team. I don't think it was 10 years ago, but I think that this is the new aggression and mandate of the NFL that somewhat kind of requires you to do it if you're in the position to go and make that move. I, for instance, think that like Detroit last year was in that position to do it. And rather than go make the major move, which could have put them over the top, they went light. They went under the radar. They went a little bit conservative with the Zadarius Smith. And what happened, their pass rush was not enough. It was not nearly enough. And I think that I would be in that same place if we find ourselves at that record, if we find ourselves moving in that direction of things.
Look at what the Mariners did.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, I'm not by any means a baseball expert, but Charlie the Unicorn, our comments says, pull Mariners and go in for some dynamic players at the trade deadline. Well, that's kind of been the complaint about on the Mariners side, right? It's like you're there. This is like the best run of Mariners baseball since the Ichiro days, or I guess you could even go a little bit further back when A-Rod and Randy Johnson were still here, and then you go make that extra move to go over the top instead of just barely missing the playoffs. They've made this with several games to spare, and they could win the division as soon as tonight. Like they are a legitimate World Series contender at this point, and Jeff Passan won't have to eat crow, and hopefully neither will Dan after that little slump a few weeks back. But like it would be really cool if the Seahawks could kind of follow suit of the Mariners, a thing that I never thought I would say in my life, where okay, you might have something here.
Be like the
maybe
Mariners.
Make that, yeah, be like the Mariners. Maybe make that. It doesn't have to be a splashy, like humongous trade. The Mariners did give up their entire farm system to get Naylor and get Geno back, right? So for the Seahawks, no, they're not going to trade Reek, I don't think. They're not going to trade. I don't think they'll trade Boye Mafe or anybody of that status. But if it's like a third-tier player or it's a day 2 draft pick, then I believe that I don't put it past Schneider to at least be sniffing around. You know that John Schneider, whether Pete's here or not, John Schneider is always going to be on the phone, just kind of slowly opening the door saying, hey, you up? I just want to know whether or not this player is available. And if so, at what cost? Like he is as inquisitive a GM as you could probably get. And it's kind of a running joke for us. So who is available at the trade deadline is totally different because it's week 4. But I think that Seattle, depending on how these next few weeks go, and if they go like say 5-2 entering the bye, they could be willing to make an extra move to kind of solidify their playoff status at the very least. Not saying win the division, but solidify making the playoffs comfortably. Because when's the last time they easily made the playoffs is 2020. So like this would be a lot different. And I think it's all fun speculation, but it's a good topic to bring up because like in a couple of weeks, if they keep winning, it's going to be crossing our minds. Like, could this team be special enough to maybe at least win a playoff game, be in that second weekend? And could they, add somebody else without being, a big subtraction in terms of assets lost?
And we know, in John, to your point, like you just said, John is a guy that is always active throughout the year in the team roster building process. So he will be on every deal. If there's a player available that's a valuable player out there, he's going to be listening. That's why I think we should consider this even now to be up ahead of this, because it's a really hard question to answer. I don't think there's a right answer. It did look like Dan squished his face up a little bit though, where he didn't want to. You're feeling the aggression, Dan? There's not a.
No, two things were happening. One is I was thinking about my earlier point, and that they only have 6 draft picks, and if the right player's there, it wouldn't be a high pick, but you mentioned like a day 3 pick. They don't have to. They're not going to be hunting a quarterback in next year's draft, so that does afford them a little more flexibility. And then Cal Raleigh hit his 59th home run. And so the Mariners take a quick 1-0 lead in this game, trying to clinch the division. And it was
on a hangover.
It was an upper decker, third deck home run to right field with a hangover. Very impressive.
Yeah, why has nobody even entertained the idea, at least a Nationals perspective, that he could actually surpass Judge's AL record? Like it's really, I mean, they're playing a terrible team right now, and they get the Dodgers to close out this season.
And Julio just went deep to left field.
Julio!
Start the party.
Julio! We need some champagne here.
Yeah, you saw the quote from Naylor last night, right? He said, "We're gonna celebrate this one big. We're gonna celebrate tomorrow night big." Like they might be hungover because they were going hard last night, but maybe they should drink every night after games.
Yeah, they're feeling good, man. It's all down. Here we go. Got a couple more donations and whatnot. We're a little behind here. Feed More Seahawks, thank you for 19 months as a Hawks Nest member.
Ooh, nice.
Says, don't forget about special teams where we're ranked top 5. I think it should be number one by a
The guy
mile.
everyone wanted to fire in the preseason. I'm sure you guys all heard about
I was there.
Those two.
And all the disguises put it on the front. W out come any sleeper picks for the game. Well, that's a great time to do the sleeper app over here in just a second. Big shout out to Jay. I think you guys, we all got to admit we were a little nervous. We didn't know necessarily, but we were all a little just tiny itty bitty, just, rightfully so. It was a rough road there that first season, but this has been the best special teams unit to my eyes in football here through 3 weeks. You don't advance metrics. I'm like, I watch the PFF scores on special teams and I'm like, if you already don't give PFF match weight with the PFF scores, the special teams, when you're like, how are you guys judging this? So I think they're number one with what they've done and their effect. And it's also been so purposeful. I haven't heard many people talk about this, how that block punt was set up by the design of Harbaugh, getting them to change their protections on that, to leave that free rusher. There's no place that ever exists on a punt unit where you have a free rusher set up to allow for that, and that just gets blown naturally. There had to have been an audible to make that happen, and I just don't hear too many people talking about that.
I think one of the coolest things about this team is and the special teams are a part of it, is anytime you look for what they do on the practice field to carry over into games, right? It's just like during draft season, we always talk about, we look for, the traits that we see and the qualities that we see in a player to carry over to the next level. They don't always. And we're seeing that at just about every aspect. And, being out there at training camp and watching Jay Harbaugh drill those guys, and how often do you hear, we heard it with the George Halani recovery in the end zone, but we're hearing it through every aspect of the game, defense, offense, special teams, that every time they make a big play and they're asked about it after the game, what's the first thing these guys are saying? Well, we rep that a lot. We heard Mike McDonald talk a lot during training camp about how it sounds like they rep more, like they're so aggressive about getting more reps in and maximizing their time in practice than maybe some other teams are. And this is starting to show up. And those things that we heard about in training camp, we don't like to hear about special teams. We don't want to hear Jay Harbaugh talk. We don't want to ask Mike McDonald questions about special teams. We want to see Jorge Polanco hit a third home run in the first inning. So the Mariners are up 3-0 trying to win the division. That's what we want to see.
Let's go.
That's what we want to see. 3 home runs already.
Let's go, Ams.
But we're seeing those things come to fruition. And that's the most encouraging thing, because in the later years, and I always qualify this, I love Pete Carroll. I love everything he did for us. He's a tremendous man, tremendous coach. I wish him all the best. But those last couple of years, the things he would tell us they're doing and we're going to do, we didn't see them happen. And now we are. And I think special teams is one example of that.
Can I make a comment here? And it kind of piggybacks what you're talking off there, Dan, about this coaching staff and Mike McDonald and Jay Harbaugh and Clint Kubiak now and everybody that they've basically got in that building. The way that and from what I've heard, the way that they practice and the way that they go over these scenarios and the way they work all these different situational things that'll come up in a game, regardless of the likelihood of it coming up is going to come up, it could potentially, I hate to use this term on here, it's like saying Lord Voldemort in some respects. It's very Bill Belichick Patriot type of way. If you listen to how he used to quiz guys in practice, what are we going to do if they do this and this penalty occurs? What are we doing? Or what are we going to do in this? Like, they were always ready for every situation and being prepared for all those things. And it was something that I had heard on a show before where they were talking about coaches in the beginning first 4 weeks of the NFL season. Some coaches and teams struggle when they don't have coaches that are, strategic thinkers that work those angles constantly. They struggle because they go off of motion. They go off of, base things, and they do those. And like, you think about Mike McDonald, like week 1, yeah, okay, we stumbled out of the gate. Week 2 and week 3, we have been so well prepared to play the Pittsburgh Steelers, to play the New Orleans Saints. Those are things that are different. Pete was great. And Pete, I think, thrived early on from having exceptional players. Richard Sherman, the Legion of Boom, Hall of Fame level players. But as to your point, Dan, those last couple of years were things, he wasn't getting those players. You could see that it wasn't working the same way when you have the elite level players. You look at Mike McDonald. Yes, he's got good players, but how many blue chip players like that group can we say are on the Seattle Seahawks teams currently? There's a lot of red chips, but there's not a lot of blue chips. Like, guys are talking like the absolute best at their position. The only one I could really throw up there right now is probably You could throw JSN this season in that conversation, but it was probably Leo. Leo is the best defensive tackle in football right now, and it's not even close. But that's it. You don't have a whole bunch of other blue chips around. So the situational awareness of this team and their ability to be on top of these things is giving them a massive edge. And that goes back to the coaching staff and how they prepare these guys.
Amen. Mookie, anything to add there?
When it comes to the special teams, I think the changes to the roster do matter a bit. And we have to acknowledge that last year, with all the struggles that the Seahawks had with the return game and also the covering kicks, that guys like Nick Bellore and Will Dissly, they were big parts of the special teams group. And then you have to replace all of those snaps once they're let go. And there were some growing pains there. They didn't really have a lot of guys who were really up to par there. And then the return game, just forget it. I don't remember who was returning kicks for the last Pete season. It was Lockett and somebody else. But the D. Williams and LaVisca Chenault experience could not have gone much worse. No. So now we're in 2025, and you have a rookie returner. And obviously, the hope is that Tory Horton eventually becomes such a good receiver that he's not returning kicks anymore. But even forgetting him, Derek Young had a big kick return. And George Holani can return kicks. He'll get a demerit for the fumble last weekend, but it was blowout time, so, whatever. But they've got better returners, and they've got guys like they are targeting guys who can contribute heavily on special teams, which is, again, a major reason MVS was cut and that they kept Tory Horton. And also why Damian Martinez was let go and is evidently not coming back because he's visiting other teams already. Like, if you do not bring any value to the special teams, then you're not going to be on Mike McDonald's team. You're not going to be part of Jay Harbaugh's roster. So you bring in Chaz Surratt. And whether Surratt ever plays a defensive snap doesn't matter to me, because Surratt in one game has shown you his value as a special teams guy. And if he had slightly better coordination, he might have had a touchdown too on that block punt. They just signed DeAnthony Bell to the active roster. And part of that is because Eamon Warrior is not going to play in all likelihood tomorrow. But DeAnthony Bell, when he was in Cleveland, another very good special teams player. Yeah. And who blocked that punt? It was Bell. So you have those guys. Dorica stuck around as a special teams player. I remember as a rookie, I think he had a fumble recovery in the Giants game off of Will Dissly forced fumble, or somebody had a forced fumble from that game that led to Dorica recovering it. So you have more guys who are going to be positive contributors on special teams. I think it'll just naturally work itself out that you'll have better special teams. So the way that this has started out, other than one Jason Myers missed field goal, you couldn't ask for much more from Jay Harbaugh's unit. I think part of it is his last name. You're just always worried that he is a plant by Jim Harbaugh to get back at the Seahawks for all these years. But at the moment, I think we can continue the wiretap, but he's off the hook for the next several weeks in terms of like any hot seat or anything like that.
We're calling off the hit squad.
We're calling out the hit squad. I don't have to take my bat out of the closet. I think we're good.
Call Johnny. Tell him that it's off. We don't need to do this anymore to him. Yes. We'll let him live.
Brandon's getting better and better.
No, I'm going to get this thing down before the end of this thing. I'm telling you.
All
right. Let's. It is good time on that for a little bit of Sleeper love. Sleeper is the sponsor of this show here. Let me my nest picks here. Let me 1 second, guys. You're gonna go away for a second, but you're still here, so
it's okay.
Hang out with me here. We do have a Sleeper sponsor in the show, though. You can use my code NEST, or you can use Dan's code, which is
Forever.
Wow, you chose a long one there, huh? Okay.
I have a very intelligent audience.
Okay.
They can handle 3 syllables.
So I want 4 picks. We're going to go with I'll do 1 pick off the rip here, and I'm going to take Tory Horton at 24.5 yards over. And then we're going to go to Bryce, then Mookie, and we're going to put a ticket together here. So Bryce, you're up next. I'm showing you on the screen here some of what you have to look through here on the over, the under, and the yards.
Give me the Sam Darnold one there. Give me over 223.
Over 223. Mookie. We've got some McBride action. We got some field goals. If you want to go field goal, Barnard 16.5 yards. DeMarcado with being the backup running back there to Trey Benson or Myers with 1.5 field goals.
I say this with great caution, knowing our history with field goal kickers at that stadium. But
oh God, yeah.
I think that Jason Myers is going to exercise some demons of Hauschka's past and get 2 field goals. So I think we're going to go over.
I like it. Well, they only got 158, so they think that there's a decent chance that too, even on that. And then Dan, give me the money pick here.
What do they got any Kyler Murray picks?
It's actually only the 30 yards on here. Let's see if the
30
pass
yards
yards for Kyler.
rushing.
209 passing yards for Kyler.
Give me the under on that.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Dan's got a dub going on this game, no doubt with that. All right, folks. Well, you can 6 times 8 for you on a $5 drop. And that is in addition to if you use my code or Dan's code today, being Forever or Nest, N-E-S-T. And on your initial deposit, they will match you, Sleeper, up to 100% of your first deposit. You get it on daily fantasy, variety of different sports, put a variety of different picks together, the over-unders like we like to play here. But please use my code today. Use Dan's code today. Support the channel. Have a little bit of a code off. And appreciate Sleeper. Terms and conditions do apply. See their site for details. All right. Let's get back over to you guys here. We got a couple more donations to catch up on here. Where did y'all go? Where'd you go?
Here we are.
You're back. We got you back.
Do we have any Kyler Murray picks? No, I'm sure Kobe Bryant has those Kyler Murray picks. He's
Oh, let's go. Okay, a couple another donation here from Thomas, and what do you guys mentioned? I forget it was Mookie or Bryce on this one.
Bryce.
Mentioning the thought about going out there and moving for Bradley Chubb. So I guess Bryce, you're in favor of this, but let me walk me through this a little bit from your standpoint, because I've thought about this on the edge thing, and all of you guys can add on this. You got Clowney going to Dallas. Dallas is going to lose. Dallas is going to suck. He's kind of just sitting there in the reservoir if we never need to just go flick for like a 6th round pick for Jadeveon. So can you sell me on the 4th round pick for Bradley Chubb instead, based on what Chubb's done recently as a player, or am I misseeing this?
I don't I agree with you, Brandon, that you could go get the 6th round and go get Clowney. I kind of view Chubb as maybe a little bit more upside still in the pass rushing side of things than Clowney can offer right now. And that's maybe where you see the bump in the value of the draft pick. But again, if you're going out and getting a guy, I'm not going out and getting another Tank Lawrence type run defender type of guy. Like, I don't need that. I have Chenna coming back. I've got Tank still there that can do that. If I'm going on getting someone, I want someone that's going to give me a little bit. Yeah, they may be older, but they're going to give me a little bit more in the pass rush and finishing area. And that's where I think Bradley Chubb over Clowney probably gives you that. And that's where you might have to pay a little bit more. But this is, again, if you're 5-2 and you're going to want to get something that may help you, Von Miller style or not, if you're not going to go get the Von Miller type Trey Hendrickson deal, maybe the Bradley Chubb one isn't a bad one to go and do. I don't know if I do a 4th, maybe a 5th, but depends what situation the Dolphins are in at that point. I think Chubb gives you a little bit more in the pass rush game than, say, some of these other guys at that age.
Fair enough. Mookie, would you be in the same place on that one?
My problem with Chubb is he gets injured too much. I mean, he's got like 3 significant injuries on his ledger. He's got the ACL tear, or was it an Achilles injury? I'm trying to remember. It was the 2023 season, so I'm pulling it up. Torn ACL. So it was a torn ACL at the end of 2023, and it was a good season for him. He had 11 sacks, but he also had an ACL tear, I believe, in his 2nd season in Denver, and he missed a lot of time in 2021 with an ankle injury. So for somebody who's about to hit 30 and then didn't play at all last year, I have a feeling that Chubb's best days are probably going to be behind him. So it would have to be a really, really cheap compensation deal for me to be interested in Chubb. And I don't know his contract situation off the top of my head, but Bradley Chubb doesn't really get my juices flowing in terms of like pass rush help. So, but that's just my opinion. I don't know who else could be available, but he would be like on the lower market end for me.
Yeah. Dan, you as well. Don't want to those Chubb knees, man. They don't hold up too well, do they?
I am not a slave to PFF, but it is a comparative tool. And through 3 games, even though he has 3 sacks, Bradley Chubb is the 119th highest graded pass rusher by PFF. I would pass.
Yeah, that's a tough sell on that one.
I had a hard time finding him. I was scrolling. Yeah. I had to go to 200 rows.
And he does, by the way, carry. Well, I guess you're going to be on a pretty small base with him because they're just going to eat all of that. He's on the bare minimum base, so salary wise, you're not really on a lot on the hook there with him on that side. But yeah, PFF doesn't like him, Bryce, man. They're killing him in the run game, like a 35 grade. Holy moly!
But that's what I'm. But I'll just say my caveat.
You're right. No, you're right. I knew you were looking for the pass rush. You got your early run defenders, early down.
I've got my run defenders. I'm looking for a guy that can come in and maybe rotationally help finish on 3rd downs.
Fair. That's totally fair. No, I mean, and look, I think a lot of defenders are going to look bad on that Miami defense right now, on that Miami team.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's hard to look good when you're in that environment, especially on the defensive side of the ball. You can look good on the offensive side of the ball on a bad team and still put up yours, but it's hard to get yours on a bad team defensively.
Except if you're Jordan Brooks. You look fantastic.
Yeah, Jordan Brooks. Jeffrey Thistle, thank you for the $10 donation, Jeffrey. He says, I was excited for the Mariners until I saw them celebrate just getting into the playoffs like they won the World Series. I recognize this. They reached their goal and are done. Slow clap. Raise the bar. You got Cal out there on the mic saying let's go win the whole effing thing. And I think that, this is the best. I think it's the best roster they've had. We've had 100 and whatever win. I know it's on more baseball side, but we've had a lot of good teams here to get in the playoffs in my lifetime. Not gotten to it a lot, but they have good teams that went to the playoffs when they did go. This is the best group as far as set up to go out there and go win it, and how they're structured, how they're built, how their brand should win them. Even if they just go out and are hitting home runs in the playoffs, you've got a starting staff that can hold down 2-3 runs and you go hit 3-4 dongs in a game, you're going to probably win the game on that. So I think that there's a real good chance for them to go out there and take this thing.
Yeah, especially this year, there's just no dominant teams in baseball this year. All the rosters are flawed. I think they have the most complete, on the pitching side and in their lineup. And the celebrating thing, like, these are new players. These aren't guys that were here for the history of it. Every team celebrates making the playoffs, and they're going to do it again tonight. And obviously, it hasn't impacted them because they're up 4-0 in the second inning, and everybody's dialed in. So,
if any franchise should celebrate making the playoffs, it's this one, because you can finally use a second hand. As blurry as it is in the background, finally use a second hand to count the number of times this team has made the playoffs.
That's
so
crazy.
In 50-something seasons. So, like, you celebrate what you get, and they're probably going to win the division. So, and then that's even been rare for them too. They haven't won the division since 2001, right? With the 116 win year. So you end a 24-year division drought with Houston put in a trash can after having the lead for most of the year. You are going to celebrate the heck out of that. So next step is getting a playoff home win, because that was the sting of 2022, is they got the wins over Toronto and then got swept by Houston and ended up not even scoring in the home game. But man, that atmosphere when they get to I almost said Safeco, but when they do return to T-Mobile Park for the actual playoff game, that's going to be awesome. And just a little not fun fact, but the Seahawks and Mariners have only made the playoffs of the same season one other time. That was 2022. So what hasn't happened is both of those teams winning the division in the same year. Wouldn't it be something after all this kind of mediocrity and aimlessness? The Seahawks are amazing and the Mariners are awful, or vice versa. Certainly the 90s, the Mariners were the ones making the playoffs and the Seahawks were just mediocre or awful. Wouldn't it be something for this city to experience Mariners fever into a Seahawks season that toward the end of the season is gunning towards a division title? That would be something this city has not experienced literally ever, because I just said it's never happened before.
That would be great. I would love to see it. And boy, the town would be just turned up if you could have both those going like at the same time. And you can also say, Mookie, we're due. So we're kind of due. It's never happened. So it's like, well, it's got to occur at least once, one way or the other. You're a Mariner fan, aren't you, Bryce? Even up there in the Canadian ranges?
I hate the Blue Jays.
There we go.
I am a Seattle sports fan through and through. When Vancouver Grizzlies were up here for basketball, I was a Supersonics fan.
Let's go. That's when
I got the Canucks up here, and I don't like the Canucks. I was waiting for Seattle to get a hockey team, and I'm a Kraken fan. I do not like my local sports teams.
By the way, have you seen Cal with the mustache? All the guys are growing the mustache. Like, are he and Gray Zabel share any DNA?
And Oots' stash too. It's like those stashes are holding on for dear life. It's like it's partially holding over the lip here. It's up. Some of it's up here near the eyeball. They definitely have the odd follicles there in the face, a little bit around the mustache area. Jeffrey, thank you for another $2 donation. Says also, I expect to beat the Cardinals fairly early. Well, it's a good time right now. Thank you for the donation, guys. Let's as we're crossing the 2-hour mark here on the show. Let's break down a little bit of this matchup from a key standpoint tomorrow. Obviously, we can go to the certain things. We got to run the ball and we got to get pressure on Kyler. But you guys let's go around a little bit here and give me some specific things if you can kind of drill down to some more less than just kind of vague on the things, but specificities. Bryce, you kick it off here with this Cardinal matchup. Give me maybe an item or two here that are the major things that stand out that will really determine this as being a loss or a win coming in tomorrow.
Okay, so the first one, obviously, for me is going to be, can they effectively run the ball against this front? Because as much as the Cardinals' defense is banged, their run defense is actually one of the better units right now in the NFL. They're, I think, only allowing 76 yards per game. That is going to be something. Calais Campbell is still playing good run-stopping football at his age, which, again, like, is amazing for what he's doing. And Dalvin Tomlinson's been a really good pickup for them. Seattle has to be able to run the ball inside, and they're outside. That's fine, but you want to get Budda Baker down into that box, because what it inadvertently will do is it'll allow you to expose this beat up secondary. Will Johnson probably not going to play. I can't remember their other top corner who's in the nickel. He's out. Williams, he's out. You can then exploit this secondary with Cooper Kupp, with JSN, with Tory Horton, with the tight ends, Elijah Royo and Barner. But you got to be able to establish some consistent run game of not just getting stuffed at the line of scrimmage, like actually find ways to move people. And that means you got to switch it up and run some counter and run some jet sweeps to widen that out, then start doing that. So the line of scrimmage battle is going to be very interesting. And on the flip side for me too is we got to get Kyler Murray in the dirt. You can't let him run around. You can't let him extend plays. Like, get him in third and long and make him have to throw the ball down the middle of the field, where we know he struggles to do. And for whatever reason, the Cardinals don't want to move his pocket to make it any easier. Get him in third and long and pin your ears back and go after, as someone put in the chat, which I really like, the Glendale Gremlin.
Nice. Well, Dan, how about yourself? What stands out as one of the keys in this game from your perspective?
I just don't know how Arizona's going to score. I really don't. That offense is such a mess, and fans are calling for Drew Petzing to be fired. The head coach is having to come out and endorse him, which usually is a precursor to a guy getting fired. They can't get the ball to the receivers. Jackson Smith and Jigba has more catches and yards than all their receivers combined, including Marvin Harrison Jr. They when they do get open, they don't catch the football. They lost James Conner, who's kind of the heartbeat of that offense. Murray doesn't look like he's taken a step forward to me at all. He still has the bad body language. He still airmails 3rd and 7s. The offense just seems to have relegated him to a dink and dunk passer, which plays right into our defense. And the Seahawks are, I think if they're not number 1, they're number 2 in the league at defending wide receivers against a team that can't get their wide receivers involved. Trey Benson's averaging 6 yards a carry, but that's as a complementary piece to James Conner, right? Arizona's run block win rate numbers look good. Their pass block win rate numbers look okay. We don't know if Paris Johnson's going to play, though. I don't know how their offense scores. I don't think they have a chance in this game unless we have one of those weird games where we turn the ball over, where we make some fluky plays, right? Where we give them a short field a couple of times. I just don't know how they move the ball against this defense.
How about you, Mookie? What stands out? Any item with this that extra on top of that might stand out to you?
I think you all know, when it comes to playing in that stadium, even though it hasn't really happened the last couple of years, the one specific thing that we do not want to happen at that stadium, because it's just been bad juju. I'm not even talking about the Super Bowl. I'm talking about, and even within that Super Bowl, the players that they lost in that game. So to me, half the win is just getting out of there healthy and whole. So as far as the actual game, I think that Seattle should. In fact, the line flipped. It went from +1.5 to -1.5. So they are a road favorite here. And why shouldn't they be? Just historically, they've only lost one time there over the last 13 or 11 or 12 years or something like that.
It's 7 out of 8. They've dominated in Arizona except for the tie. Arizona's won once in the last. They've won once and tied once since 2012 in Arizona.
Yeah. The 2020 game
was that tie game, by the way. I was at that tie, by the way.
Oh my God, you have my sympathies. Well, the 2020 game was the horrendous defense we saw, that they threw away a 10-point lead in a couple minutes, and Russ that was kind of one of the origin stories for the major points for Russ. Let Russ Cook era kind of going away, but in terms of this game, I think historically the Seahawks defense has played Kyler Murray very well. And that includes the Pete defenses, which weren't good in the last few years, but they knew how to beat Kyler Murray. I think about the 2022 season, the Cardinals were bad. Kingsbury got fired, but Murray just couldn't escape Shelby Harris. He couldn't escape Bruce Irvin. I mean, the Seahawks speed on this defense, I think, can counteract the way that Kyler Murray can, run around and try and make plays, because you could always have you can always have a secondary player, Spoon being back. I can absolutely see Devin Witherspoon sacking Kyler Murray. He almost did last year, and then I think Rayshawn Jenkins got to clean up or something. But to me, as long as Murray is stifled and you stifle that offense, Seattle, I don't believe is going to need a lot of points to win. Like, they could get 17 to 20 points, and I believe that'll be good enough for a victory. Connor being out really changes the equation, because Connor has been a guy Seattle has not done a particularly good job of stopping. Now, Trey Benson, I think, is a decent back, but I don't think he presents the same level of physical play and just all-around effective work that James Conner does. But the receivers versus Seattle secondary, that has to be a win for Seattle. Like, Marvin Harrison Jr., well, frankly, he's stopping himself because he's doing a great job of not catching wide-open passes. But after that, Zay Jones is out. And then you got like Michael Wilson, Greg Dorsey. These are not remarkable receivers, and they are not great at getting separation. One of my hangups with all the hype about Arizona is like Trey McBride, I think, is very good. But after that, who are the proven guys at the skill position, at the wide receiver position? They didn't get any bit better there. And you combine that with Murray's own weaknesses and not using the middle of the field very often. And I think that this is an offense that Seattle's defense is very much designed to shut down. So as long as they don't get silly with the turnovers, and they were basically clean last game until the Holani fumble, as long as they don't give away like short fields, bad turnovers, bad decisions, bad special teams, hopefully it doesn't surface, I think that Seattle should be able to win this game, to me, at least by 10 points. I guess the one factor would be the Sunday to Thursday turnaround. But other than that, they have had no issue playing at that stadium in terms of overall performance. So I absolutely think that the Seahawks are capable of winning this one fairly easily, just because Arizona's offense isn't good enough. Now, the defense could give Seattle's offensive problems, especially because I think Jonathan Gannon does a good job of mixing up some looks, pressure looks. But their secondary is going to be vulnerable, meaning their corners. They gave up 8 for 134 to Ricky Pearsall last weekend, and they gave up, I think, 6 for 100 yards to Ted McMillan in Carolina. I think this is going to be a JSN game on offense again. And then on defense, I think that the Seahawks defense is just going to overwhelm Murray, and it'll be something like 24-13.
Well, and you talk about the turnaround, like, could there be a bigger disparity in the experiences these teams had on Sunday? The Seahawks have a blowout win. They're able to pull key starters in the fourth quarter. The Cardinals go on the road to Santa Clara, play a very, very physical game against a very physical team. They have to expend every ounce of energy they have going right down to the wire. I think it's a huge, huge advantage for Seattle this time.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you mentioned that they've had such a great game plan with them. I think the commonality between Carroll and McDonald is the we're going to live in the 4-man fronts. And the key for me in this game is, as much of you've been able to neutralize the Cardinals' rushing attack with the 6-man fronts, with the lighter boxes. You've been able to have them go 12 personnel, you go 6-man box, and you've been able to defeat that. You were mentioning about the crossing route. Bryce, you're going to love this cut. I think, Dan, you were referencing this very play a second ago. I want to play it because this just stands out again to what you've got to force Kyler Murray to play within. We had a man, Corbin Smith, swear to us on a stack of Bibles in training camp that Kyler Murray was 5'5". And you watch this kind of play and you just go, he just doesn't see it. He just doesn't see the drag. Yeah. This is a 3rd and 7. This is for game. And he's throwing late, deep. And the only reason he can see that is because it's down the field. So he's got perspective on it.
Yeah.
It's the play you're talking about, right, Dan?
Yeah, it's one of them. Yeah. I mean, a lot of Cardinals fans want to call that a drop. Maybe you give Upton Stout credit for a PBU there. But
you got to go to the drag. You got to go underneath to the drag. It's right there. He can lead him out to the first down marker it's an easier throw. Lead the guy out, and that's game. I mean, that's at the last drive. That's as the game's winding down. And I think the defense has gotten to the point with Kyler now where they know in between those tackle boxes he can't see it. And you just almost don't defend those plays a little bit to a degree. Take away his first read, which is what we did last year in the first game, the second matchup. Remove the first read. He wants to go into a scramble drill. You have a light box. You have all those defenders on the back end, so you usually have a spy. He can't just go run around and then create it. There's not the openings on the back end because you have so many guys in coverage. I think that's where you box him in, on top of the fact we, of course, saw Evan Brown get his lunch money taken twice, playing Leonard Williams both times, where Leonard just absolutely owned him in both of those 2 games.
Well, and that's, in my opinion, honestly, that's going to be the thing I think that's going to ruin Kyler's day on tomorrow is Byron Murphy is now becoming a pass rushing demon on the inside. So now you have Leonard and you've got Byron collapsing that A in that interior part of that pocket right into your lap. And this is what I don't understand about the Cardinals is you have a guy that's got some legs, get slide protection built in, move that pocket around. So now you can start maybe seeing some of those things because as you slide the pocket, windows start to open that you can throw through, not over. But they want to keep putting him in a lot of these drop back situations. And to your point, Brandon, like that's easy. As a quarterback being, 6'4", as soon as I see my guy on that under drag beat that guy across the field, I'm laying it out to the right hash, letting him run on and catch it and go. Now you're trailing him the whole time as a DB. I'm not trying to force that deep over route because that window is so tiny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's where I think he's just limited. There's nothing he can do about it. And Corbin saying that 5'5" thing just kind of confirms a little bit of what I saw in the field when the guy was on the field, and that he is not at his listed height. I'm telling you. And I don't know if he's 5'5", but it's just there's certain things he can't see, and you know it. Coaches have gotten the word out. A couple more donations, and we'll kind of put a bit of a button on this one. Myron Morel with a $5 dono says, "Who steps up in the fullback position for Robbie Oots now that he's on the IR?"
Brady Russell.
We know the answer to that one. Yeah.
It's going to be Brady.
Really, how grateful are we that they hung on to him? He's a guy that really, was a fringe roster guy, right? And hasn't had a role as a tight end or in any other way except for special teams on this team so far. But the cross training with the fullback, it gives him a guy to go to. Otherwise, I still don't know. Are we going to see him as much as we saw Robbie Oots, right? Are they going to trust him as much? He's a different type of player. He's not as big. He's not as physical.
That's true. Yeah. He's certainly not the hammer in the hole that Robbie is. And that I think you're right. That probably leads to less of those looks.
I think you see more 13 personnel with Eric Saubert out there moving as your move tight end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was thinking like the guy that I'd like to see back there is AJ Bonner.
Yeah.
He can do it. That's for sure. And you certainly got a Royo there who can, I know we don't want him in line, but if you got to kind of mix it up a little bit, you can, especially if you're going inside runs, which I think we all agree that's where the success will be had if it's to be had in this game. So inside runs with Barner leading on at I formation kind of looks, even if Royo's on the outside, I'm okay with that as a way to go. Dogzilla, thank you for the $2 donation. Murphy's favorite drink this off season? Bourbon?
I don't know what to make of that.
Is there a Murphy's bourbon? Is that?
I don't know.
Is the bourbon related to New Orleans? Like
oh, there we go. That's maybe the connection there. There, you're on it, Mookie.
Is that where the Super Bowl is this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's pretty amazing watching him play as good as he is. And we kind of wrap this up, him getting done when he's done still from that nose tackle position. And the Steelers game helped because Arthur Smith does a lot of stuff where you typically have offense coordinators that are going to double the one tech. He does a lot on the tape with Arthur where he plays it cute and he tries to get away with singling up that nose tackle. And I felt like that was part of why Byron was able to really go hunt that game, was because of Arthur Smith's run game establishments that he kind of brings in, where most teams are going to just double that especially zone stuff, where they're going to just double at the point of attack and call it a day. But he's getting it done, guys, isn't he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's looking good.
Last question. I promise you this guy, I wanted to ask you guys this, and this is a one-word answer, so we can wrap it up on this. And I'm going to hold you to this way too early. I'm going to force your guys' feet to the fire on this one. I want just one player mention. Tory Horton is going to have the Seattle Seahawks wide receiver career of Dan.
He's going to have my career?
No, what?
I want much better for him than that. Dang, without numbers in front of me?
Yeah, no numbers. Blind guess.
He's built like Daryl Turner. But let's say numbers-wise, Brian Blades.
Oh, you took mine. Okay. Oh. God bless it, Dan. Okay, Mookie, go ahead.
So it's the Seahawks career, right?
Seahawks career.
Seahawks career of. Man, this is such a lazy comparison, but they're not the same player, but I really feel like he can be another Tyler Lockett.
I like it, man. Why not?
I almost said Joey Galloway before the trade, but like, Joey was kind of a wide receiver one. I don't think Horton's going to be that. Certainly not while JSN is here.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for him on that. How about you, Bryce?
Oh, man. You guys took both of the guys I was thinking of. This is horrible.
Brian was so good, by the way, Dan. That's such a good one.
There.
No, I'm not going with that one.
See,
the problem is the numbers don't, like, I think he's going to have better numbers than this player that I'm about to say.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll have better numbers than this, but he gives me like Daryl Jackson vibes.
I like it.
Oh,
I like it. That's a good one too. About same size.
Just maybe without the push off.
Yeah,
that was not a push off. That was getting himself free of defensive holding, Dan.
Yeah.
You know better than to get that right.
Did y'all think about that play when Devontae Adams scored his touchdown in Philadelphia on Sunday with just the obvious?
I've seen it so many times that it's just I saw it in the moment. Before that catch up, and I've seen that happen a million times in football games. I've had it happen a million times in other football games. It's like it never gets called like that, and that's the little frosty tip of the iceberg of that game of BS. That Dan over here triggered.
Sorry, I had to bring that up.
He's got to trigger me. Well, folks, do us this favor. We got we had 1,000 people in here today. So nice. A big shout out to all of you out there for watching, wherever you're watching, my side, Dan's side, Bryce's side. And if you guys can for me, do me a favor. I've got down the link section below for Dan's channel. For Bryce, I got the link down to field goals. You want to be monitoring what Mookie's doing, and they're covering there because they're on it daily. They're covering every bit of this team on the details, keeping you updated on that. But please sub up to these guys, follow these guys. They do great work out there. I really appreciate you guys coming in, being able to do this once a month, as I'm sure we'll probably only be ramping this up into the future on this one. So please do link up with those guys. Thank you guys for doing this. An awesome time with you. And, like I said, we'll probably end up having to get this into probably a twice a month thing here pretty soon, especially if this team can keep going in the right way, as people seem to really love it here. And great turnout this evening.
Yeah, it's always great hanging with you guys. I'm going to, between now and the next one, I'm going to work on my Italian mobster impersonation.
I'm going to expect it to be good. And if it's not good, there's going to be a price.
Well, then you're going to be disappointed, but
I'm going to give you a big fish, and it's going to be wrapped up.
Terrible at accents.
That's all right. You don't have to be good at accents. You know football, and that's what people most want here at the end of the day. You guys are awesome for doing this and hanging in with us. Thank you guys for doing the show. We will be back at every end of the month, Wednesday, 5:00-ish Pacific Standard Time, but right around in that territory of it. Again, do please sub up to all these guys. Use the sleeper code, either Forever or NEST Nest, and they'll get you matched up to 100% of your first deposit, up to $100. Washington, it's opening up in October here for you guys to use that app almost in full, so be on the lookout for that. We will be back in a month, hopefully with a 6-1, 7-1 Seahawks team, talking about gumdrops and trade deadlines dancing through our brain like Christmas. Dare I dream. So we will be back with that, with some scintillating coverage for you guys. But until that time, please don't you ever forget. Don't you dare forget. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.